Welcome. This is the January 25th, 2018 meeting of the Finance Committee, and we are in the first floor meeting room of Town Hall. And tonight's agenda is general government, and we have with us Town Manager Paul Bockelman and the Burgesses, David and Sandra Burgess, who are doing, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. and they are part of our budget discussion tonight. Okay, so the first thing is general government, and would you?
It's Select Board Town Manager.
Okay. Paul?
Are you? You're here, I'm not.
Okay. So this is the town manager's budget. It's not much to say for it, actually. The big increases in is in employee benefits. Personnel services go down a slight amount.
It's basically just your department budget
Yeah.
you're talking
Yeah.
about, not the overall.
Okay. I wasn't prepared for that first.
Want me to chime in a little?
Yes, please.
Set it up for us.
So we're on page 16 and 17, and I'll just go over the numbers, and then Paul,
Yeah.
you can highlight any of your accomplishments or challenges or goals
Okay.
that for the town manager that you have here. On page 18, which shows the budget numbers, that it goes up 2.7%, which is just for COLAs and step increases. The personnel services also include the select board salaries at full budget, and if there was 2 years, it was phased in. Now we're at the full amount there, and $20 for the elector of the Oliver Smith well. And I have to admit, all these years I've worked here, I really don't even know what that is. I have to admit that.
What is?
I know there's a
$20.
person that oversees the Oliver Smith well,
Manages the trust.
manages the trust, is that?
Mhm.
And they give money to various, I think it's young
Brides.
women,
Brides, right, yeah,
and who
brides.
educate, and also for
Price of a
education,
cow
I
or
believe.
something back in the 1800s.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Smith's Charities has a very nice building next to Silver State Designs in downtown Northampton, so.
Right.
The bulk of operating expenses in the town manager's budget is pretty much all listed here. General shared supplies, some training, some legal advertisements, dues. And it is now combined, the select board and town manager. We used to have that separated a few years back, now it's all one. So that's the bulk of the numbers.
Is there a reason it combined?
It was combined,
Oh, I mean, sorry, it was separated, you said.
yeah, this is about 3 years ago, they combined the two
Okay.
just
So I
for
thought-
efficiency. So Paul, if you want to say anything about your goals and.
Sure. So this budget is built on a status quo, basically. We anticipate one vacancy in the sense that Ms. Puffle has announced that her retirement come June, and that will be a big, very big loss and big shoes to fill. So, but we sort of assumed levels funded. She may change her mind. We may put pressure on her to change her mind, but I think she's pretty much made up her mind. But so, and then also we're assuming, we have not assumed anything about the charter change. We're just assuming status quo in terms of all of our budgeting for this. If the, so that's sort of not factored into this at all if there were to be any changes. So it assumes everything is status quo. A lot of the goals and for the department have already outlined to you at the budget presentation. The goals for the town manager's office are the goals of the select board, and those have been already articulated. We have some things that we're trying to do internally, just in terms of making the office more efficient making it easier to get our minutes up online. That's a big challenge administratively. And we're looking for technological solutions for that, as opposed to hiring someone to take minutes, right, which is expensive. So we keep working on different things like that. But generally, our office is working with the select board to get the meetings done, and then all the other things of the town.
So what committees have it's a clerical help or secretarial help?
I believe the planning board has someone who comes to their meetings. I'm not sure who else does.
Select board?
No.
They take their own minutes too.
What happens is that I take notes. That Ms. Pupple watches the meetings and then drafts up some draft minutes. I review them, and then Andy Steinberg, or the clerk, reviews them and finalizes them.
Certainly the planning board needs someone. For the person to be the director and then try to follow all of that. It's a huge job.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Questions of the manager? If you don't, I do. Under your long-range objectives, and you talk about affordable housing, and I'm not quite sure how that's defined. I went to the school committee meeting last night, and they talked about their enrollment plan, and Amherst is, percentage-wise, is losing more students than some of the towns around us. The declining enrollments, and they were speculating as to why that is, and we talked about affordable housing, but then is that just for people who are slightly above the poverty line, and then the other group, and the group in the middle, average income people, are we losing those people? And so when we talk about affordable housing, my concern would be, are we also looking at housing for people in the middle? I don't know what you call them, but they are there.
Right. So the town needs housing in all different sectors. Affordable housing specifically is defined as someone who's at 80% or lower of the median income of the area. So that's what you would call affordable housing. So if you are at 80% of the median income, and if you are building housing and pricing housing to allow those people to purchase the housing. The North Amherst project with the Beacon Communities, they're being priced at 50% of the median, so there's a deeper subsidy there. So it's a lower income group can live in those apartments. But we really do need sort of middle income housing too for young families. The classic thing is you say your firefighters, your teachers, your police officers can live in town. But that we need housing at all different sectors. We're seeing the housing prices in town are rising because there's a high demand for them. People are moving into other communities because there isn't enough supply in the town. So there is a focus on creating more housing across all sectors.
Janice?
To follow up on that, when you say 50%
Yep.
subsidized, will students move into that, or will
No,
it be
they
families?
don't count that. The students don't qualify.
What is considered the median income?
I don't know that off the top of my head. This is not really my area.
Could at some point, could somebody get us those
Sure.
figures? What salary range is that middle income?
Yeah.
And is there any reason we can't make that part of approving of housing projects, that they price them within the range that middle income group could afford?
I think the planning board does do that, and the zoning board, depending on who's the permitting granting authority is. The planning board, I know, is also looking at an inclusionary housing bylaw. That would mean that if you're going to develop a certain type of project, you have to include a certain number of units in that that are deemed affordable. And that when they're affordable, it means that they're affordable in perpetuity. So there's a deed restriction that means they have to stay that way.
But we're going back to affordable being people that aren't in the middle.
Right.
But I guess my question is, it would seem to me we need to be looking at housing for people in the middle.
Right. The market has to address that.
what do you mean? May I ask a question? What do you? I don't understand your question.
It's salary for people whose salaries are in that middle income bracket instead of they're poor or they're wealthy.
But
Because this town,
what are those numbers?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking. Because the affordable housing, as he's pointed out, is a percentage below the median.
Median, yeah.
Median.
So half the people are above it and half the people are below it.
Right,
the
that's what I said,
yeah.
median. So, so I'm looking at something above that.
Well, I'm just on that point. Affordable housing is by state law, right? There is no state law for median housing.
I know, but I'm asking if the
Middle
town could do
income.
something along those
Well, if
lines.
the town did something, then I don't know. Could the town be violating some laws by doing that? I mean, I'm not sure how the town would do that, except to, in some ways, to policy encourage housing in that segment, either through more apartment complex development, or I don't know.
Do you have an answer, Paul?
No, I mean, it's
Okay,
the market.
right. Bernie.
One of the answers to making middle income or smaller single-family detached housing available, one of the answers to that is to get the students out of that smaller, those single family detached housing. There's a lot of our housing right now is occupied as rental units. So the way you do that is you build other housing that's attractive to the students, and that becomes a lightning rod in dispute. So when a developer comes in and says, we're going to do housing, we're going to have room for X number of students, people go, oh my God. What you're doing when that happens is relieving the pressure on those, on the kind of housing that younger families or older families who want to downsize would be buying into. So I think it's a combination of that, it's a combination of economics, it's a combination of land use, and if Paul can solve all that in the next year, well, this is a long-range objective. I would be about ready to nominate him for a Nobel. It's not to disparage the discussion we just had, but it's a fairly complicated piece, and some of the answers to that are the very kinds of things that send people up the wall and cause all kinds of dispute. So,
All right, so on with the budget then. That was one of your goals, I was curious. And what are the regional challenges?
The regional challenges are, well, working with our neighboring communities. Obviously, we've been working with Hadley on providing ambulance services to them. We provide EMS services to several communities, negotiating a new contract with them if that's what they so choose. If they go off on their own, that's a different matter for us. Looking at shared dispatch services, we're looking at, that was looked at once before, is coming back on the table. Town of Hadley is interested in talking with us about that, along with Pelham, I believe. And that would be something that, I think the last time they looked at it, it was a pretty grand regional thing. We're looking at something where we could accommodate it in our existing facility with hardly any kind of, with adding one desk basically, and we could probably handle it. So those are the two big ones that are on the table.
Good, thank you. Other questions?
May I just kind of follow up on a very previous discussion?
Okay.
So, can you give us a sense of how much housing is coming online through these apartments, and I mean, what is how many apartments, how many beds? I mean, is there any way to know how much housing?
Yes, I don't know that off the top of my head, but we certainly have the planning department has all.
So I'm wondering, obviously it's a math, like you were saying, it's a market will kind of figure that out, and supply and demand. So some sense of what the supply and the demand approximate numbers might be, and the trends might be.
Yeah, there's been a housing supply study done for the town.
Yeah.
The 1 East Pleasant Street, which is the big project downtown, has a number of units. There's a new project at the Amherst Motel site. David knows these things better than I do probably. That's been permitted, but it's being challenged in court.
Right.
So those are all projects that would bring a lot of additional units. And then the Beacon Communities project in North Amherst was scheduled to have groundbreaking this spring.
So there are a couple of big projects in the last couple of years.
Those are big projects, yeah.
Are there more in process? Would you know, or it's kind of hard?
you have some?
Well, I suppose that there's the Amherst Hotel, which has been challenged at the moment. That's
Yeah.
some 130 units.
Yeah, okay.
There's another one down on the beside the Newmarket building on Amity Street. There's supposed to be 35 units there, although I have been led to believe that plan may be changing, but I don't have any details on it. With the units that are going to be going up in Spring Street, another 34 units behind. As Paul referred to, there's 130 units up at Beacon, 26 of which will be low income at the 50% mark. And those are the ones I know about at the minute.
And how many units are there in this big building in the center of town?
I
There?
believe there's 135.
The one in the
The one that's getting built at the
the
moment,
big-
one East Pleasant Street.
there's 135.
Yeah, and of course we had the 36 that came on at
Triangle.
Triangle Kendrick Place, and then the 74 that came on up at the 57 on Olympia Drive.
How many were there?
74, I believe. I'm shooting out numbers that I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
I know. I
You're
don't want to
doing
put you on
very
the spot, but I'm just trying to get a sense.
Mhm.
Since we're talking about housing, you know, I mean, all these units were not there 5 years ago or
That's
3
correct.
years ago.
And there's some talk that some of the other existing complexes are going to be expanding in some way or other, adding units the same way as Presidential did when they added, I think it was 30, 26 or 30 units this year. So there's a lot of housing being developed. And then, of course, there's a study that UMass is doing at the moment of their own. It may provide some beds on the campus.
In addition to what they already have.
Yeah,
Other
those we
questions?
don't know about those. We never see them.
Sure.
So do you have any sense of how many, having built those, how many houses now that were rented to students are now vacant?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. That's hard to say because
Okay.
another part of the dynamic is that some of the older complexes in town and in the surrounding areas that don't have the technological ability that these units have may lose some of their tenants that will take them over. But you are quite correct, there are some houses that are coming back online that were previously rental, that are coming back as single family. They are at the lower end, being less than $250,000 to $300,000, but they are there.
So 250 is considered low end?
Well, 333,000 is the average.
Okay.
You know, anything we're getting built at the moment is 400,000, 500,000, 600,000
Is that average or is it median?
average.
It's the average. Do you know what the median is?
Median's not much different. I think it's about 350 maybe. Maybe it's a little higher. I can't remember.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Yes, Janice?
What are your special activities?
What do you want?
Where is that written?
At the bottom under the pie.
11,200.
Just keep going down.
Retirement parties?
Oh, no, come back. Special. Oh.
Oh, others
Page
includes
18.
11,000 for special
Oh,
activities.
yours doesn't
18?
say special activities on it.
He has a different pie chart.
Page 18?
Oh,
Yeah, he's got a different pie chart.
No, look
3%.
down below the pie chart.
Yes, I
in
know, I
the
see the
words.
sentence.
Yeah, but it doesn't have it on the pie chart.
Yeah, it does. It
His
says special.
doesn't.
It's on,
No,
Paul's
but it
doesn't.
says other includes 11,200 for special activities. Just the words under the.
His pie chart doesn't have that 3% special
It has the
activities?
words,
It
but it
does.
doesn't have, it has the words, but it doesn't have it on the pie chart. It's interesting.
It's 3% special
It's
activities.
3%.
But there you are.
I'll have to get back to you on that one. I don't know the answer to that.
Special
I don't know what
activities.
that is.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's where, we'll pay for if
Quite
there's a
specific.
special,
Yeah, I know.
meetings that you have with the select board for different things in the town room, community stuff, it's, pays for, it's sometimes paid for training. I know last year we used some of that money to help support, we used most of that for that 5,000 initial charter commission, so it's kind of for a hodgepodge of things that,
Special things.
special
Activities. That's what
Your
you
yo-yo conventions you go to?
I don't know if there's any cost to the Cup of Joe or the community things you've been outreaching, But
Yeah.
if there were, that's where it would come.
But it would be reception for when you came on, there was reception. I would assume that's part of that. To meet the
Every
community.
year it's different things. I can go back and look at history and kind of give you a real
Right.
idea of what it's been spent on in the past. But I know last year, most of that, 2017, most of that was used for the 5,000 initial money that's mandated for
Oh,
us
for
to
the
cover.
charter.
For the charter, yes.
Okay. Okay, other questions? All right, well, thank you very much, Paul. The next item, that's, oh, legal services. Are we jumping over?
Yeah, legal services.
Okay.
Really not a lot to talk about on the legal services page, is level funded. Are we doing legal services? Or town meeting and finance committee, go to
Oh.
page 19.
Town meeting
Order.
and finance committee. I was trying to do what Paul was here for.
I'll be here, don't you? Go ahead.
What?
I'll be hanging around, don't worry.
He's hanging out.
Oh, okay,
This is part of the
then we're
special
fine.
activities.
Yes.
Yeah, special activities.
Special activities.
Yeah, that's what legal services is.
That's,
Alright, so we're on the town meeting and finance committee page, and this budget basically pays for any dues or subscriptions that we need to pay for the finance committee, printing and advertising for town meeting, dependent care, child care, parent care. The $1,000 for the moderator stipend, and I think 2 years ago we added 600 for town meeting committee to rent buses for tours if it was needed.
they do that every year.
Yeah, other than that, there were no changes. It's
Okay. It says voting machine support.
Yes. Normally we put all of our IT software support in IT. This is Mr. Pooler, when he was here, he wanted to put the support for the voting, for this electronic voting in town
okay.
meeting. He wanted to put the support for that particularly under town meeting, so that it would be very clear and, what's the word I'm looking, transparent.
Okay. Okay, so that's for the electronic, what do they call
The
it?
electronic voting with
The
clickers that you have at town
voting.
meeting.
Voting machine.
Not
Okay.
No, hi.
All right, other questions for town meeting finance committee?
So I'm sorry, I just want to be sure, there was no changes in this.
No changes.
No.
Level funded.
You know why?
We operate efficiently. Okay. And your next, we're jumping over
Legal
finance.
services?
You don't do finance?
Yes, but we've changed the
Okay, so you do legal services.
legal services, yes.
Page
46?
46?
46.
26 and 7.
That's a short page.
Again, no changes here, it's level funded. We had a retainer that pays for most ongoing legal services. We pay $48,000, that's sharing with the enterprise funds for that, which is about, it's $4,000 a month that we pay monthly. And then the remainder of the funds are for other land purchases, litigation, those are different. Those get charged separately. We stayed pretty close to the 110 when we've gone over. There's been enough in general government to cover it, so we level funded this.
Okay. So the question I have on that is, do we have anything we're involved with legally at this point in time? When Pooler was here, he gave us a little list of the, I think over the last, when he was here, 5 years of what was out there, what was settled, but
We'll have a litigation update from town council at our February 5th select board meeting. So there'll be a written report at that meeting.
okay.
It's scheduled for the 5th at this point.
Seems
Yeah.
fairly quiet, though.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, that what the town does spend legal funds in advance. It really supports its decision-making bodies, planning board, zoning board, in writing their decisions. And that is money very well spent, because we tend not to get sued on those types of things. Also, if we are sued, then it's the person who's advocating the project who has to carry the cost of the defense. We don't defend. It's usually the person who's advocating the project who carries the defense. So that we obviously have to notify. If we are sued for anything, we notify our insurance company, and they carry the litigation costs for some of these things as well.
There's a
Sure.
drop off in fiscal 17 from 116,000 down to 110. Is there a reason for that in the budget?
Because fiscal year 17 is the actual number, what was actually
Oh.
spent.
Okay.
18 is just the budget number.
Oh, it's just the budget. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions on legal? Okay.
So
Where do you want to go from here?
I'd like to skip through human resources and employee benefits, and maybe, is Sean here? Have you seen Sean out there? He might be sitting
No.
out
No.
there.
Why you go to Sandra?
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, there's Sean.
Yep. Come on in, Sean.
Good timing.
Lurking.
Yeah, it's lurking.
Here's-
Here you go.
Do you need the budget book, Sean?
I have a copy of
Okay.
mine. Present house.
Do you know everybody, Sean?
I think I've met most people here.
We can go
New
around
faces.
quickly, starting with Anurag.
Anurag Sharma.
Janice Ratner.
Tim Neal.
Joe Jane?
Mary Lou Heilman.
Still Bernie Kubiak.
Okay.
Sharon Pomenelli.
Okay. I'm Sean Hanna. I'm the IT director.
Okay. Would you want to do some introduction of this one?
Trying to find the page.
34.
Thank you.
34, 35.
And the numbers on 36.
The only change in budget here is for steps and COLAs. This budget pays for all the licensing fees for software, which includes our munis financial software, which is shared with the school department. And so we pay the whole bill, but Region reimburses us for that. So that's about it. Sean, you want to talk about your objectives and
Yeah, you want me to run through?
accomplishments?
So the accomplishments we have for this year, selected a new automated scheduling software package for the police department. We haven't implemented it yet. We're still working out some details on that.
On what?
They're automated scheduling software for calling people in to fill shifts. It's all done on paper right now. We were involved in the negotiation with Amherst Media, which was a carryover from the negotiation with Comcast. Some updates to our data backup. We've made a more of an effort within IT to push messages out on social media. It's something IT's been working a lot with the town manager's office and some other departments on getting more proactive, getting messages out there and kind of providing that conduit for other departments. We've been working with the Public Works Department to implement their work order system for managing their projects. We replaced all the computers in the cruisers of the police department. Those were about 5 years old, needed replacement. And a new employment application system. What we have for challenges, we have two that overlap to an extent, but it's really the number of different projects that we have working out there. And most projects are very important to whatever department they apply to, and managing them with the staff that we have, and making sure that we get them done as best we can, as well as maintaining what's existing, especially with police, fire, communications, and DPW. There's the need for things to operate 24/7, so it's a challenge of scheduling things when we can be least disruptive. Then moving on to the next page are long-range objectives. Increase the use of Munis. Right now it's used by many departments as a financial system, and all these different systems tie into it, so it's continuing to tie other things into that same system, get them to talk with that. Scanning a lot of the paper records that we have. Because we have a lot of paper that could be digitized. Continuing to try and contribute to green efforts where we can, so trying to select energy efficient equipment where we can. Maximize the town's ability to provide services online, so getting things readily available to the users. Establish a town cloud infrastructure, which is really just making things more self-service for departments within town. Connect the town buildings with fiber optic. One of the things that came out of the Comcast renegotiation is that the fiber optic network that was provided to us for free with Comcast is no longer going to be provided to us by Comcast, so that'll need to be replaced. And then also to, along with that, explore the ability to potentially use that for more than just a town down the road. Then specifically what we have for FY19 for our objectives is increase the reliability of the downtown Wi-Fi. The system that's out there is 5+ years old and could use some care.
I'm sorry, you're going to replace that, or what were you saying you want to do?
Yeah, so to replace what's out, what's covering the Common and down Pleasant Street. So,
as a user of that system, I can tell you, it's a good idea.
Yeah. It's a good idea to replace it, or it's good. yeah. It's what we have out there now is showing its age. It's
So can I ask you a question about
Yeah.
that? So at some point I was kind of hearing, nothing explicit, but in the grapevine, that you're going to make Wi-Fi really fast in the town. Is that still an objective? And if it is, where are you with it? And
so right now the plan is just to replace what we have, which essentially is the Common and down Pleasant. I think we basically go to blanking on the name of the park. Kendrick Park.
so you go to Kendrick Park on Pleasant and Amity Street. How far do you go?
We go basically just past the library. So it's because the access point is on the library. We have limitations as to where we can put the equipment, so we're using town buildings where we can, and then we use some of the town-owned streetlights where we can.
Because I sometimes try to use it from Amherst Coffee,
Okay.
and it's pretty weak out there. So
Yeah. So the challenge is that the signal doesn't penetrate buildings all that well. So we try and set expectations that it works outdoors. If you're right in the window of most of these buildings, it will penetrate to an extent, but depending on the construction of the building and if they use the energy efficient windows, there's some things that kill the signal basically. So
But it's not intended for businesses or.
right.
Yeah, because Amherst, place like Amherst Coffee has their own Wi-Fi.
they do, but they have 2-hour limit.
This
Okay.
I saw that one coming.
I usually walk out and go back in again, and it works.
Okay.
No, but the because at this point what is happening is that Wi-Fi is almost like people's expectations. It's not new anymore.
Right.
10 years ago it used to be like a big deal.
Right.
And I suspect the technology is evolving very quickly too. So I suspect that prices are dropping as well. I hope. Or
I would say what we put out there would be
because part of the I don't know how much the bid people are kind of talking with you about this, but to have among the various things that draw people into the center of the town to make the town a little bit more thriving place, Wi-Fi is a really important service. I think a lot of people would agree with that.
Yeah.
So I know you're doing what you can given the constraints you have, but as one voice, I would say like go for it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. And I was going to just talk about mining cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Way of taking care of that
Set up
annoying
operation.
deficit.
Set up operation.
It was a way of taking care of that annoying deficit we keep having.
Okay.
Where we should
Anyway,
have
that's my
invested in the
2 cents.
healthcare trust. And
Thanks.
Yeah.
We need an energy source.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Like
Do you, I'm asking the question, you probably know the answer. You are in charge of the town website.
Yes. Yeah, that falls
Okay.
under it. Yep.
I'm not, one of these people who are whiz at this, but I go on the website and I plug in, 2018 annual report, and that comes up. But then all these other reports are out of line. When I'm looking at things chronologically, they're not there chronologically. At least what I'm looking for.
Okay.
And so I don't know how it works or how that's set up, but I don't think it's particularly user friendly.
Mm-hmm.
It's some parts of it.
Yeah.
The finance website is great. Janice and I put stuff on and easy to find. It says all agendas are the latest or whatever, and that's easy to maneuver. And some of the other department ones are. But when you're searching for information, documents or whatever, it seems to be not in chronological order. What it does is it pulls a date from within the narrative of the document and puts it out there. I don't know if maybe you don't search it or have to search it, but.
Yeah. I mean, my best guess would be that when you search, it's using whatever algorithm it is to find that content, and if you're I'm guessing that it feels that or thinks that the second result is the next most relevant, and then the next most relevant, and the next
I
most
see.
relevant.
But a lot of times I want to look at annual reports, and they're not, 2018, 2017, 2016 in that order. So I don't
Okay.
know if you can do anything with it. But
Okay.
it's or it'll be a 2011, and then it'll be, after that it'll be a 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm bouncing all over trying to get information, and those annual reports are pretty good. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of information. So maybe it's just because I don't know totally how to use it, but it's something that,
Yeah. No, we can look into it. So you're saying when you search for annual reports, it's not chronological.
correct.
Okay.
And how far back do the archives go?
I know everything goes back at least to when we went to Civic Plus, which is 10 plus years ago. When we did that, we imported a lot of stuff, and then I know that 5 or so years ago, IT worked with the town clerk's office and digitized a lot of the annual reports going back to the.
We don't do it. Probably you're talking about the election time meeting results books and stuff like that. Digitalize those, scan them.
I want to say there was some stuff that was from the
Okay.
1800s.
I don't do
Okay.
Oh, there is
reports.
some.
That's the only
Actually,
reason.
Oh,
yes.
that's it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's some stuff that goes back to the 1800s.
Right.
Not much of it.
I was going to say the 1800s.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Sharon.
Oh. Can I go back to the Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
I think Anurag brings up a good point about that being an attractive thing for the downtown. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the last item you have under the long-range objectives
Yeah.
and how
So-
that kind of ties in.
So that's something that we've had on there for a little while, and I think we need to figure out how that works
Social
into
media.
the fiber that's going to be installed. But back a about 3 years ago, the bid was very interested in looking at getting fiber installed downtown. So they funded a study to basically figure out what it would cost to do that, and then it came back with it was going to cost $1 million, and then I think it really that was when John and Sandy were both here, and it basically became a great, but how will we pay for it, or who would pay for it? And so it never really went anywhere. So we've had it on there as something that in the long run we'd like to figure out what could be done there.
Well, I think the bid funded that. Well, I know the bid funded that because we were approached by John to fund that, to try and look into it.
Fund the
and
study.
then- Yeah, the
Yes.
bid funded the study. John approached the bid to fund the study, and so we funded the study, and it didn't seem like it moved after that. And so that's specifically why I was asking about, like, is there more movement, or is there some other, is it going in another direction, or?
Yeah, it's something that
It's okay if you don't.
Yeah,
It's on there, so I'm asking.
Yeah. I mean,
That's-
you would find that there's a
Yeah.
lot of interest in this town, even outside this
Right.
committee, because it's just one of those things where people are on their things all the time.
Right.
There is so just a quick question, since we are the budget committee. How much does it cost to provide wireless or Wi-Fi services in town, approximately?
So the cost to operate it,
Well, just approximate, like how much does it cost the town to provide free Wi-Fi services right now?
right now it's sharing our same internet connection that we use for the libraries for their public computers. So it's essentially the internet access part of it's free. We do pay something to the power company for the power on the poles, and I want to say that's $30 a pole
It's
per
minimal.
year.
So it's pretty minimal.
It's pretty minimal. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
So, I mean, if you were to spend, say, $1,000, would that kind of significantly improve the quality of Wi-Fi? I mean, I'm just kind of trying
I
to
think
figure
I
out,
think-
like how expensive it would be to get the Wi-Fi services to a level where local businesses and the people who come into town find kind of attractive.
yeah.
Just trying to find out.
I would say ballpark, we're probably looking at 12 to 15,000 for the equipment to cover downtown. So there's the cost of the equipment. So what's up there is 5 years old, and that needs to be replaced. And then the cost of running it is pretty minimal.
Okay, Janice?
So who would be expected to be paying for this? Would the town pay for it to provide it for businesses, or would businesses be asked to contribute?
You're talking about the Wi-Fi or the fiber?
I guess the fiber.
Yeah, I think that's a big question.
I think the original idea was the public Wi-Fi, which is you go outside, you log into Wi-Fi. That was just to be ubiquitous and everybody could use it, but it wasn't designed or robust enough for businesses to actually utilize it. Some smaller businesses were trying to operate their credit card machines and stuff off of it. It was intermittent. They were frustrated. It wasn't designed for that. It was designed for you to be able to jump onto the Wi-Fi when you're walking around. I think the way it was explained to me, the high-speed internet was like a utility that we would string fiber into the core business area as an economic incentive for businesses who needed high-speed internet to locate downtown. And that's part of the, what do they call it, the something district that was part of the mission. But there was a price tag to it, and then you'd actually have to create it as a utility where people would say, yes, I want to buy it, I'll pay a certain amount per month. And the town would have to get into the idea that it was a municipal utility and start treating it as such, and that's a pretty big enterprise.
Municipal light plant.
Yes.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Bernie?
Well, I wanted to ask about the fiber. To connect town buildings with fiber, replacing Comcast, because Comcast is moving out. When are we going to hear about that? Are you literally planning on pulling new fiber? Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's not a cheap thing.
Yeah, it's on the 10-year capital plan right now
Okay.
for FY20, and it's about, we're looking at $500,000 to $80,000 is kind of the ballpark on what we're looking at for connecting the town buildings.
Okay. Have you chatted with the folks in Holyoke or Westfield about that?
We've
Holyoke's done a really good job, actually.
No, I'm sorry. Could you say what this is about? I mean,
Pulling fiber. Well, we've got an intranet sort of. Our buildings are connected now.
all the
Town-
time.
yeah, the
Fiber.
town
buildings
buildings
are connected by fiber, which Comcast is providing. And you said as a result of the last Comcast negotiation, they're not going to provide that anymore. So that's going away, and we literally have to replace it. Okay.
Why do you replace it? They will take the fiber with them?
It's their fiber.
It's their
So they'll
fiber.
take it?
They won't let us use it.
They'll
or-
pull it out?
the-
What happens is our fiber goes out there and then it gets bundled in with the rest of their fiber, and basically they're not going to not allow us to use
To
that.
connect that, okay,
correct,
to the
yeah.
fiber.
Yeah.
Which
So-
yeah, doesn't seem very effective to me, but to have, okay, but, so we'll hear, at JCPC, we'll hear about a plan at some point to replace this. I mean, the other prospect is simply to outsource it to Holyoke or Westfield, which we can do on a handshake if we can come to good terms.
But there are funds negotiated in the Comcast contract to pay for this.
Okay, all right, there, so that's.
To replace the fiber?
Mhm.
They're gonna replace their fiber with our fiber?
We're gonna replace it with money they give us, because they're saving money by not servicing our fiber anymore. So it's part of the negotiations.
Okay.
But that's different than just letting us use their fiber. That's interesting.
They don't want us to use their fiber anymore.
We just take,
They're going home and taking it.
We're actually our own fiber.
Okay.
do we actually physically
Okay.
remove their fiber and put in our own fiber?
No.
I think there'll be an overlap, but yeah, so yeah, the fiber that's there, that's Comcast, will be replaced with ours. Whether they actually remove it or if they just abandon it, I don't know yet.
And what's our fiber? Where do we get that fiber from? Is that another like Verizon or another company that we?
So we have a few different options there. The pricing we have is based on a vendor who's on the state contract coming and installing the fiber, and then we own it. It's the town's fiber.
Okay.
The other option is, as mentioned, is
That's what.
Holyoke Gas and Electric, Westfield.
Are there grants and funds available for these kind of things? I'm just asking out of ignorance, really. I don't know. Because what I hear when I read the Wall Street Journal and papers like that is like companies like Google and IBM, they're all into about like smart cities and kind of doing this and that. Google has its own fiber in the cities and stuff to make internet access accessible. So are there, I mean, I don't know, you probably have your hands full with doing all the things you do, but I wonder if there are grants and things available from sources because this seems like a pretty happening thing right now with all the information technology and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any grants. I think we could. I know that Google will do it, but they will own the fiber, and then we'd have to work out an agreement with them to let us use their fiber.
And this is coming down the road on the Joint Capital Planning Committee, right? For the
Yeah, so it's
future.
in the 10-year plan, so it's
Okay.
not an FY19 ask, it's an FY20
But there's-
ask. But then
there's funding for it, for one. The mass broadband piece was really targeted at, I mean, Amherst is too well served to be folded in under that mass broadband. It was really aimed at the 101 communities that had very little or no broadband service.
Okay, so.
Could we just become a Google town?
You can apply.
Like
Everybody wants to be.
Yeah, sure.
We still have a way to go. So if we're finished with the
Thank you.
fiber,
Yeah.
we
high
can.
five.
Any other comments? Sean?
Get a flip phone.
I don't. Is there any more questions if there are any?
Okay. Thank you very much
Okay,
for
thank you
coming.
everybody.
What, you don't wanna stay for the rest of this one?
You don't want to see.
Sean, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Figuring out your names.
Yeah, they've waited.
Sean Hannity.
Okay.
Move to town.
You patiently waited.
I was embarrassed to ask.
So let's see, we have town clerk's office, right? Page 39, town clerk's office.
And I'll just start off by going over the numbers. There's a decrease in personnel services in the town clerk's office, and that is due to the expected retirement of the town clerk.
Oh.
And I'll let her take it from there.
She does a dance.
On the town, as you know, like we have the three different budgets here. We have the town clerk budget and we have elections and registration. Of course, the fun's always in the elections, but town clerk pretty status quo in terms of what we do. Recent accomplishments, I think the biggest thing was the implementation of the new public records law. It has, on and off, it has been a challenge. Every now and again we get presented with these requests that just kind of, I think Sonia's had a couple of them, and we're currently working on a big one at the moment. But you know, the secret is to just kind of stay calm, remember to breathe and get your way through it. But it's been a great learning experience for everybody. I mean, by no means was I a public records law specialist. I just got the job, that's all. So I'm learning as well as everybody else. We're all kind of working cooperatively. Most of our objectives pretty much remain the same in terms of town records, trying to always looking to see what we can provide electronically, what the best way to provide them is. Looking at our old records as well, going to approach the Historical Commission about petitioning the Community Preservation Act Committee for another funding for preservation, maintenance of old records. We had been doing very well there, but then we got caught up. There gets to a point where you can't use money anymore because unless your records are 50 years old, they're not considered historical. So it's nice to know that I'm historical. But objectives. It's been a while since we've really looked at our town clerk web pages. We focus more on maintaining them. You know, it's something we're going in very regularly and doing is maintaining the pages, but getting a chance to look and see what else we might be able to do. So we always have that in mind as well. And of course, we're hoping for an orderly, well, should I say the town manager is looking for an orderly transition to a new town clerk in 2018. One of my successor will be looking at doing a comprehensive review of the town clerk fees. It's been a while since we've done that. And then, of course, the assistant town clerk, we've been waiting for her to begin work on certified municipal clerk. That was waiting until I got my master municipal clerk, which I got a couple of years ago, but the assistant town clerk has just been prevented in the last couple of years from doing that, but hopefully we'll get.
What is that to? I'm sorry.
The certified municipal clerk is it's probably one of the most recognized qualifications for a town clerk. It's an accreditation that is given by the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, and then the MMC, that's the Master Municipal Clerk. That just takes a few years more, and that also is an accreditation by the IIMC. Then going on to elections registrations. Well, we're very broad when we talk about recent accomplishments. We're going back to the 2016 state primary presidential election, and then of course to the joint annual town election and special election, the referendum that we just had in 2017. We prepared for and conducted early voting for the first time in Massachusetts. That came with its own set of challenges. And that ties into some of our long-range objectives, is to be very proactive in terms of providing feedback to our municipal association, who in turn get it to the legislative committee about the need for change in the early voting laws so that they can be more manageable. We actually did get selected to do a post-election audit following the state election in 2016. And then we were petitioned for a recount on Precinct 9 town meeting member election. I don't think that has ever happened before, but I think there were people that lost by one vote, and obviously they were hoping that a recount would change. We were actually very pleased because at the end of the recount, except for one ballot, it came out dead even, and the reason for that, I know, we got Precinct 9. The reason for that is because upon a hand count of the ballots, it was found that there was a ballot in which the voter had actually marked 9 candidates.
Instead of 8, okay.
Instead of 8. So the voting machine did exactly what it was supposed to do. It read it as an overvote, in which case the law says if there's an overvote, it's a blank. Nobody gets a vote, because you can't determine who the voter actually wanted to vote for. However, upon hand counting and the visual inspection of the ballot, we could see that the voter had indeed marked 9, but then had put an additional mark through one of the names, clearly marking that they didn't mean to vote for that. So that's why we ended up being able to add one additional vote to 8 candidates. So that was the only change that was made following the recount, and we were very, very happy about that.
So what was the outcome? Who won?
It was the exact same.
It was the exact same
It
for
was
two
the
people?
exact same.
So they both got to be town meeting members?
No, it didn't change.
No, it didn't
No,
change.
it didn't change.
Change the overall.
It didn't change.
Oh,
No, it didn't. It did not change the outcome of the vote.
okay.
It changed the numbers for 8 of the candidates, but it didn't change the outcome. One of the long-range objectives continues to be purchasing new voting machines. We've discussed that as part of the capital planning, and it's been agreed that we will try and delay that as much as we can. But everybody understands that it's something that needs to be addressed. Our current voting machines were purchased in 2000, so they've been working very well for us, but we can't ignore the fact that they are getting old. And it's not so much that the machines are getting old, it's the point that they don't make them anymore. So getting parts for them is getting increasingly, we'll get to a point here where we just can't work the machines because maybe we can't get a part, but looking at again, the 3 items that we will be looking down the road for on capital planning is the new voting machines, a central tabulating system, and then poll pads to use for early voting. Early voting is obviously here to stay. In the last election, we did do multiple simultaneous locations. If we're doing that, we have to be able to have poll pads that give real time showing when a voter has voted, so somebody couldn't come to town hall and vote and then go to one of our satellite locations and vote again. That's why the poll pads are required, so that they instantaneously update the voter records to show that that voter has already voted. We're also getting ready for the 2020 census, so we're in the LUCA stages, what they call LUCA, which is the local update of census addresses. I kind of get to put that on my long range objectives, but in fact it will be IT who will be bearing the burden of most of the work in updating those addresses, simply mostly because the GIS system is probably the most accurate recording of addresses that we have at the moment. And then, as I mentioned, just providing feedback, monitoring legislative changes that will be coming out, hopefully, regarding early voting in future state elections. One of the things that we're a little alarmed about at the moment is that the Secretary of State is actually trying to get 5 days of early voting prior to the state primary. That of course will be more expensive for everybody to do that, because obviously we have to employ people to do that, and that costs money, so let's have to see what happens there. The other objectives basically are, it was hard to know whether to put those in there, but it all depends on what happens in March in terms of the charter proposal, and whether that gets voted up or down, what it'll do to us in our election calendar. So it may mean that we'll have additional elections to run, or we'll just have to wait and see.
When you say additional elections, can you talk about that? Because if the charter is passed, the election when we vote is going to change. The date.
Well, you see, we're going to be having our town election in March.
Yeah.
If the charter proposal passes, then we will have to have another election in order, in November. That's the thought, in November. Now, that's not an additional election, because if we have that election, we won't have a town election in March.
Right.
The additional election would be that the charter also calls for, in the first year, a preliminary election. So that would be an extra, like we've never done a preliminary for a town election before. That would be an extra election.
Mm-hmm.
If the charter proposal doesn't pass, there won't be a preliminary.
Can I follow up? So one of the things in the charter, they're saying is a positive thing is that aligning town elections with November elections is going to help people vote more. Do you get a sense that our voting numbers have anything to do with the fact that we vote in March rather than November?
Whether more people, well,
I think they're saying that's a positive thing, that if
well, let me point out though that if we have the town election, if the charter passes and we have a town election in November, that will be the only time that we will be having a town election along with a state election.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they will be in the off year. They won't be on the same year as a state election.
Because the statute prohibits that.
That's
for
correct.
some strange reason. And the charter is written so that if the legislature ever flips that and allows it, then the election could take place. It doesn't make sense to me, but we could align them if the state changes the rules.
I guess my question is do you, as somebody who, this is your job, do you see that really makes a difference for people voting? Like do you see
Because there would be a state election, that it would bring people out to the
no,
town?
voting in November
Right now,
rather
people
than,
vote.
than,
Oh, I
March.
yeah,
I'm just asking that as a question. You're somebody who, that's your job. Do you see that matters?
It's I have to be perfectly honest, really not my job. I don't I really don't study voting habits,
Okay,
and it's my function to facilitate the election. I don't give thought to, well, what can we do that's going to get the voters out. That's just not my job. I facilitate the election. That's all I do.
It's the candidates' jobs to get the people out to the
Yeah, I
polls
just thought
and different things, but okay, so other questions about, I guess the one question on elections though, if they do go to fall, is there a separate state ballot or national ballot as well as a town ballot? Is that how that would work?
If the charter passes, the town is going to seek special legislation to allow us to have our first town city election on the same day as the state election.
Right, but the ballots.
They will be two separate ballots. There are two separate elections,
Okay.
two separate ballots.
So how does the machine count that?
The machine is programmed to count that. It's the same way as when we did the town election and the referendum election you program the machines to read both ballots.
Okay, so let me just finish up and then Janice. So now right now we also have the town election and each precinct has people running. So does that mean there is a different ballot for each precinct?
There is a different ballot for each precinct, but we also have cards programmed so that if we have to take a card to any precinct because of a machine failure or something like that, we have cards that will read all the ballots and then separate them into their precincts.
So the machines can do all that.
Yes.
That's fascinating. Janice and Bernie?
So if you have a state and a local election at the same time, you need to double staff.
It's two different elections, two different ballots, two different elections, two different sets of staff. The only positions that aren't doubled are the warden, clerk, and constable. But you have to have two sets of election workers for check-in and two sets of election workers for check-out.
Bernie?
But where I was going with that is that would only happen in the first year.
right.
Because then the town election would be in the off year to the state election. So we would have a state election in even numbered years, the town election in odd numbered years.
On the
We
first-
wouldn't run them together.
On the first Tuesday, so that's where the consistency comes in. I want to say thank you, because your staff and yourself are a key piece of key contacts with the general public, folks who come into this building. And in the 19 years I've lived in town and I've interacted with your office, I've always been treated in a friendly and professional manner. People have gone out of their way to help me when I've had questions, and that's great public service. Apart from making the trains run on time and getting all this messy stuff lined up that you have to do, I also very much appreciate the way the elections have been run.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You've done a great job, and that comes from the top and works its way down, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, that's from the whole committee too. Great job. Any other questions? Janice?
No, I'm an election worker. I guess I need to say that. You?
Yeah,
You too?
Come on, fess up. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
So I have seen that part of what you do too, and your training sessions and all, and you've been phenomenal, and I think you'll have big shoes to fill.
Well, thank you. I have to tell you that working with my election workers, training my election workers has been one of the best aspects of my job, especially you and Tim. Yes,
it's a great system. And,
You don't know what to say. You're dumbfounded.
it is. I mean,
it's
we
not
don't
Tim doesn't know
have
what to
fake
say.
votes and all that stuff here. It's very fine-tuned system. It's
Been
really
run very well. We will miss you.
And I will miss you too. I mean it. I know I really will. I will miss you. I will be glad to be retired, but I will miss you all. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you.
Okay, and now where do we go?
Finance?
Claire?
What about David?
He's part of finance.
Court of Finance.
He's
Oh, that's
part of
right,
finance.
he's the assessor. I just think of him as the assessor.
It all starts with Dave.
That's exactly right.
Well, Ross,
Yeah.
Oh, he's the,
When you wanna follow the money, yeah.
yeah, you follow them, that's good.
I never seen one of her.
All right, let's find the page.
22.
Sure. This is my favorite department in all of town government.
Oh, that's because you're in it.
Yes. And there's a lot of really good people that work in the finance department. We're very lucky to have the people that we have. It's been a lot of fun working with the team that we have over the last few years, filling in as finance director. Claire and I, is Claire here?
Yes, she is.
She's not here.
She's hiding.
Claire and I as co-finance directors. It's been a lot of fun doing something pretty much the same but different still. Every time I talk about the finance department, I want to cry because I'm so proud of the finance department. We have great staffs. We have, without a good finance department, the town can't run correctly. So I'll stop before I start crying about that. I just got the numbers. I'm really proud of our finance.
Yes.
Not many people cry over finance.
Lots of people cry over finances.
For the wrong reason.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you're absolutely right.
So I'll
An
just go
outstanding
over,
department.
I'll just go over the numbers quickly. The increase in the finance department seems high. The reason for this is in fiscal year 17, we budgeted for the very small amount of extra pay that Claire and I are getting as finance director. Town manager's still here.
Yes, he is. He's at the end of the table.
So in FY 17, that was budgeted. In FY 18, we didn't include it in the budget.
You did not?
No, we kept it at the comptroller and the treasurer position. So for fiscal year 19, we did include it back in the budget. So you're seeing this increase for 2019.
And what was the rationale for that?
Well, we did it in the 2018 budget because we had an interim town manager. We hadn't hired a permanent town manager yet. And during the time that we were doing the budget for 18, we assumed that they would probably hire a finance director in that term. But evidently Claire and I are doing a smashing job here. So for 2019, we budgeted for it.
Yep.
But also, not only was an interim, but the duration of his time was limited for the interim, for that particular year.
Yes, in 2016.
Right,
2017.
right.
Get lost in my fiscal years here.
Okay.
So,
So we had a finance director position sort of in the budget in advance.
mhm.
Is that gone now or is
No,
that
that's
still
still
here?
there.
That's still here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we still have that option of,
Yes.
still the option of hiring a finance director.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. I won't ask how you feel about that.
So I'll just go into the accounting department.
Okay, you'll do accounting.
Since I'm already stuck my foot in my mouth a few times. So in the accounting department, we handle payroll, benefits, accounts payable, procurement, grant administration, contracting administration, among many other things in the department. We were in charge of the audits. We administer health insurance. And most of the benefits, we pay all the bills, we help to set the premiums and health insurance. I can't think of what there's not really a lot of things to blow your horn on. Our financial statements our audits are clean every year. Our financial statements are on time. It's all boring, exciting stuff. There's not a whole lot to talk about in the accounting department, other than we did hire our procurement officer, and he's been in place now for
Well, I'm sorry,
5
what
months.
officer?
The procurement officer that was authorized last year. And it has been wonderful to have him. He has assisted departments with a lot of procurements. He's very professional, very knowledgeable, very willing to put the time in. We've already saved in property and casualty, which I was going to bring up in general services because that's where that's paid. We went out to bid for that. We saved $100,000 overall for the town. General services realized $25,000 of that savings. Some of that savings goes to the school, region, library, enterprise funds because we do all of that.
What is his name?
Anthony Delaney, and we share him with the enterprise funds and the schools. And I'll let David chime in here on assessing.
It's boring. The assessment, we're responsible, as you know, for setting the tax rate. Setting the values and then working with Sonia to set the tax rate every year. That's our big thing. This last year we had the revaluation, and we've had a lot of values went up slightly in town, tax rate went down, as you know, slightly. That was the last 3-year cycle. From now on, the next recertification will be in FY 2023. And along with my friend here, I will not be here for that. Trust me.
It'll be in 2023.
Yeah, FY 2023. We will do interim adjustments. That's a state requirement, so we have to do that every year. We'll keep an eye on things as we go along. Our big thing is we're moving forward with measuring and listing the last of the properties in town to get those all cleared up out of the way. This year we're going to upgrade our personal property software. At the same time we may, depending if we go for financing through the JCPC, do a measure and list of all the personal property in town. If we do that, we may see an increase in some growth, but we'll see what happens if I go ahead with that. Other than that, it's very quiet. We have done a lot with the tax work-off program. The people over there, we've had to help them a lot this last year because there's new people at the buyings, and really it's just a status quo. There's not a lot happening. As same as Sonia says, we can only do so much. It's repetitive every year.
So there's nothing new coming on in terms of properties?
Oh yeah, well that's going to be very busy as far as new growth. This year we're estimating the new growth is going to be about $830,000, up from the $650,000 average that we've been carrying.
830.
The reason for that is that we do have, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to have 1 East Pleasant Street will come on this year. That's going to add an extra $250,000 for the value for the taxes. We have a lot of single-family homes going up, and they are expensive. Some commercial work, and as the manager talked about 1 East North Square Beacon properties will be starting this year, so there'll be a small portion of that on the new growth for this year. FY20 will probably be somewhat more substantial because we'll have the tail end of 1 East Pleasant Street come on. We should have some groundbreaking on some other ones throughout town, and we'll have the majority of Beacon coming on, so it'll be a good year as well. So new growth is going to be up this year over last year.
Go ahead, sure.
When does the tax happen? Like, does the property like one East Pleasant Street, we are anticipating taxing it. Do those units have to be occupied before we tax?
No, we're gonna, we assess the value of what is on site on June 30th. So if it's only 60%
okay.
complete, we'll assess 60% of the value of the property at that time.
And thus Beacon Street, if the shovel's on the ground, it's not gonna be during FY19, it's not gonna be until the latter part.
Well, we'll get 3 months of it.
Okay.
So we would maybe 5 to 10% of the total value. Wouldn't see anything more than that. It's not something we're going to go to the bank with. So.
Okay. Other assessment questions. David was here, what was it, somewhere within the last year, and you explained all of how you assess property and the formulas and that. Wasn't this in this year?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, so we have I won't say we understand it. We have the information and we look at it and your eyes glaze over. But it was you presented it very well, and that was very helpful for the committee to understand
Sorry,
that.
I do have one other question. I don't know if you have your stat sheet. It's on page 23 in this book, down the bottom, where it says real estate property assessments. For FY17 is 7294, and for 16 it was 7280, or that's 14 properties. That doesn't seem like a whole lot of increase. I don't understand. Maybe I
Well,
don't
if you look
understand.
if you look from 15 to 16, you'll see there's a decrease of 49 properties.
Okay.
That's because, and I'm going somewhere with this. If you remember the carriage street, carriage shops, there were 49 separate units, or 50 units there. So we had to take those 50 off, and now that counts for one set. That's the 49 reduction. So the 14 increase is not a lot, but that's mostly new houses, and a couple of other pieces have been split off. That's quite a good, for us in Amherst at the moment, that's quite a good bit of growth. Now you'll see an increase in that next year, because there has been some lots split up on University Drive, so there's going to be some extra lots coming out of that. And we have at least 6 others on Vista Terrace that you may not be aware of that's coming in South Amherst. That was a discussion at town meeting a while ago. And a few other parcels. So the number of parcels coming on is not a lot. There's not a lot of land to split up at the moment. And if Mr. Roberts splits up in University Drive, there'll be a couple more there.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So the carriage streets there are a number of different property owners that own those.
Yes.
But are you saying that one Kendrick Place is one owner, so that's one?
Okay. Yes. When I talk
Or
parcel.
yes,
one
so you're
East
talking
Pleasant.
about parcel. So really, that one is that whole.
Okay.
Is
It's
that
130
whole,
units.
130 units.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But I don't count
Yes.
housing
Yeah.
units.
A
Okay,
parcel
that's it.
could be this and a parcel could be
Yeah,
that.
it's the
Okay,
owner.
got it.
It's-
Right, right. That I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
Yeah, we had a net loss of 49 in that year.
Yeah,
It was 50 condominium units.
yeah, exactly.
So that each of those was called a
Right.
parcel, even though, so.
But the
Same
net
footprint.
dollar value of the square footage of the whole property is way up.
Oh yeah.
So,
Just slightly.
Get go ahead.
you know, so I'm just, I'm always fascinated with how this town is changing. You know, it is changing.
Oh yeah.
And and you are in a really good position to have a view of, where the property is being built and stuff like that. So that's a good indication of where the town is changing and how it's changing. You mentioned that the new houses which are being built in this town are usually much more expensive
Yes.
than the median. So the median and the average is about $330,000. So the new houses which are coming on the market, are they like 20% more, or 50% more, or like what's going on?
If I told you we had a house in this town that could exceed $2 million,
A new house.
construction,
Okay.
yes, that's the upper end.
Okay.
We have some lower value properties. We've got the two that came up on East Pleasant Street, where the old farm used to be that the
Sure.
Habitat for Humanity developed.
Yes,
So those are low end, but those are subsidized housing.
that's right.
Other than that, we're looking for $500,000 houses getting built.
So the houses, the new houses which are coming on into town
Mm-hmm.
are about 450. So there is no, like we're talking about mid-income people living in this town. So those $300,000 houses are not being built.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But I have to be honest with you, I don't look at housing all the time.
Sure.
Laura, my appraiser, does that.
Okay.
So she would have, but the ones I'm seeing are well over $300,000.
Okay. So that no houses is being built really for mid-income people.
Well, if you consider that the average lot value is somewhere about $130,000.
130. Okay.
And so you've already, and if you consider a rule of thumb is when a new house is getting built, 20% is the value of the land. So
5 times more. Okay.
Bernie?
Great.
Yeah, I was just going in a short distance from where I live, which is not the classiest neighborhood in town. We've had 2 teardowns,
yes.
which is to me a sign that there's not a lot of available land, and that the value of housing in the towns, or the value of the towns really increased, because you're buying a house at $300,000, knocking it down and building a new house on top of that. So that's that's easily a $500,000 investment.
Yeah, and that addressed Mr. Neal's question as well. Just, I had forgotten about that. But when somebody tears that house down, you see a new house built, it doesn't increase the number of units. The parcel is still the same parcel. So that's happened. You're talking, where do you live?
And southeast.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's been a couple down there, and there's possibly a couple more.
Yeah,
One
because
on
the view
Shays
over
was
there,
taken
right?
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
And they did that for the view.
Especially the Class 6. People would knock up its old houses out.
Yeah, I mean, there has been one that's taken down, and the parcel split between the 2 owners. The people on Shea Street and Shea Street, not Strong Street. Forgot what the back street is, but 2 people bought the lot in between, tore the house down, and added the land to their parcels. So we've lost a house there, single family.
So it's kind of interesting because I was reading in the Wall Street Journal today that it's a housing supply is generally considered to be down nationally, and so is that what we're facing in Amherst too? Is there a shortage of housing supply?
Are they talking about single families, or are they talking about the housing supply, including
They were talking
rentals?
about everything. I think they were talking about everything.
I think we need more housing in Amherst. Yes, our supply is low.
Do we have, do you have any idea how many lots there are available or property is available in town for building versus,
No.
I mean, I know some towns have that.
I have it, but the figure I'm thinking about for vacant land includes unbuildable, potentially buildable, and buildable, and it's always 330 between a lot of them. How many of those are actually capable of breaking ground today without special permits? I can't answer. I'd have to take a look at that.
But all of them together is about 330.
Yeah.
Joe?
Could you give me an idea sort of the difference just in terms of like development when you have a place like East Pleasant Street that's all built, that's being built up, versus the carriage shops that were there before? Would you have an idea of like the revenue that was generated, that the town was generated off of like the carriage shops versus this new development?
Yes.
Would you have an idea of what the difference in revenue is?
The carriage shops are valued at about $3 million.
Okay.
So if we take today's tax rate, that's about $63,000 in taxes,
Okay.
give or take.
Yeah.
The carriage shops are going to be somewhere about, one East Pleasant is going to be somewhere between 15 and 17 million.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, it's $300,000 to $340,000.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Well, thank you very much.
I have one.
Okay, Janice.
On the second page of your chart, tax dollars abated, it goes up and down.
Well, yeah. I was always curious. So many people don't
It was 102,000 plus in FY17 and only 8,000 in FY16.
Yeah, we had a couple of big abatements because we had a few large buildings come on, and after we talked with the owners, we had to abate the value after we saw their income and expense statements. So that's the reason for that this year. The year before we had very few abatement applications, and touch wood at the moment for revaluation. I only have 17 abatement applications this year, and only a couple of them are large, potentially large. So it should be lower this year again if that keeps going.
Thank you. And best wishes to you too. Are you really retired?
No, not yet.
Oh,
We can only stand one at a time.
Yeah, but you know, I did read that you shouldn't, as a couple, you shouldn't retire at the same time. You should give more of a spend.
All I'll say is she taking out a golf membership already?
Well, then we will see you next year.
That was a joke, right? The golf membership, was that
know.
not a joke?
No, I'm taking out the membership.
He's not.
He's not.
I'm not, I don't know if it's a good membership. Oh, it's Cherry Hill.
Is it Cherry Hill?
No.
The Amherst.
Sorry. Don't ask a question if you don't want the answer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, Claire?
That's a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. But I will, there are a couple of things I want to,
What page?
services or what?
we're still in finance department, which is 22, 23, 24, 25. A couple of things we forgot to put in the book, accomplishments this year. We added, in collaboration with the fire department, the ability for people to buy their open burning permit online this year, which is like very exciting, I know.
Wow.
But we did get that done. We also reopened the front counter for the treasurer collector's office on Thursday mornings. Paul thought that was an important thing to do for our constituents, and so we are now open all 5 days a week for that 8.5 hours. I also, like Sonia does, I try to take the time to credit our staff. They're very hardworking and talented people. This year, I just ran a quick average on the numbers. The 6 people in my department, our average tenure is 22 years. And I know that
Average, I'm sorry.
tenure is
Okay.
22 years. Other than Anthony, who was hired this year, I am the most recently hired, and I have 14 years. So if we took the average of the whole finance department, that number would only go up. So we are a very long-serving and talented group. We're always behind the scenes doing that important work of totaling up the daily deposit, greeting the people in town hall, answering the phone, and we hold up our corner of the administration with the DOR, the audit, the town manager's office, and also the public. And happy to take any questions you have on the information we did put in the book.
Okay, Bernie.
I'm just, being maybe just more than usually dense tonight. The $53,736 increase, could folks just spell out for me, maybe even with numbers, what the components of that are again?
It's increases in COLAs and steps for the entire department, 3 departments,
Uh-huh.
and the outer class pay for Claire and I as co-intern.
What was the first thing you said?
Salaries and step increases and COLAs.
Okay, and then
We tried to put it in here.
Anthony's in there, right?
Okay.
Yep,
Is any of that his salary annualized, or
he was added last year.
he was added last year, so he's already in there? Okay, and the finance director position is still in there?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
You do the collections too, Claire, your office.
Right.
Go ahead.
So how much is in there for the finance director?
I don't have the number. I can get that.
Okay, you want,
Oh, you mean for the finance director position?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
I think about
not you guys, but
about 110.
Yeah, I think we kept it, yeah.
Yeah.
just curious, at one point when the economy was was tight, and we were talking about SUVs and smaller cars and people buying used cars. Have you noticed there's a difference in the vehicle excise tax collection in terms of the bill itself, rather than being $75, it's $150?
We watched that average bill size really carefully for a few years following the Great Recession of
Right.
09 and 10, and Amherst didn't really see much of a decline. It went down, average bill went down $10
Oh.
and has already rebounded.
But people just tend to hold on to their cars, sort of. Probably.
That was the fear, that people
Yeah.
would
Right.
hold on to their cars a whole lot longer, and it's newer cars that bring the average
Yeah.
excise bill up.
Right.
But it really hasn't happened in Amherst.
You
We still have a growing average bill.
the new car prices have been rising quite a bit. So is that showing up in the excise revenues for us? Okay.
Are hybrids more expensive than a regular?
No, the average price of car.
Right, I know that, but aren't hybrids more expensive than?
I think in general they're starting to even out.
Okay, because a lot of people in Amherst would drive hybrids.
The issue, and I've spoken to our rep and senator about this a couple of times, and they've not been responsive. The amortization table for the excise tax of the car, when that was formed, when that was set, cars lasted about 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
Cars now last 10 years or more, but the amortization table hasn't changed. So once your car gets to be 5 years old,
Just
you're at the bottom and you stay at the bottom,
Yeah.
even though the car is worth more to it.
right. Yeah.
You know, so if they change the amortization table, we probably see some additional revenue.
I hope they don't change.
To change
Because
that.
my car's like 10 years old. And it's the same every
So
year.
is mine.
Yeah.
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 Other questions for Claire? Tim?
Do you know how many people prepaid their 2018 taxes? Just curious.
You know,
I
I
was gonna ask
shouldn't.
about that too.
They're due.
I said I did.
Oh, I did too, but I'm
They're-
just
They're
curious.
due the first.
No,
Yeah, prepaid.
no,
Yeah,
prepaid.
tax law.
Oh,
Prepaid
prepaid.
because of the
Because
new
of,
tax law. I was just curious to see whether, when I came, there was a line,
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
and I was just curious whether there were a lot or minuscule.
I was out most of that week, but when I got back on January 2nd, the staff said it was like tax day. It was like a due date in here. And the one day that I did pull to just take a look at the number, we had done $500,000 at the counter,
Wow.
which is a number
A lot. Yeah.
resembling a tax due date. I mean, it was really amazing. So there are going to be sort of the unforeseen consequences of this. A lot of people who paid their bill also have an escrow through their mortgage, and now the phone is ringing off the hook because we've reported zero balance due to the mortgage companies, which is, we always report tax balances to the mortgage companies. It's part of how we collect the taxes. So we reported so many zeros that the phone's ringing off the hook. That has to be wrong. That has to be wrong. No, it really is right. And there will be adjustments to escrows and therefore monthly mortgage payments. There will be adjustments down, and then when taxes come back online and the zeros have all gone into the rearview mirror, mortgage payments will go back up, and people will be upset about that. No one will complain when they go down, but then they will go up. So it will be very.
And guess who they'll call?
There will be more than usual refunds because some banks will miss it and they'll pay again, even though the homeowner paid. So it's going to be a gift that keeps giving. But yes, we were very busy, and we did easily $1 million in that last week of December. That we usually it's very, very, very quiet, very slow.
Where do we put that money in
Yeah.
an interest earning account, right?
Oh yeah, of
So
course.
that's
Yes.
economically
Yeah.
helps us
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Paid up front.
Okay. So that million, is that a lot of people? You don't really know. I'm just curious to see, like, but
Well, my accountant told me not to do it. Yeah, I called him, he said, don't do it.
fire your accountant.
well, I think
I
we'll
did
see.
one. I did
Depends.
one quarter,
That
and
depends.
my advice was
Yeah.
it's hard to know. I mean,
So let me, I don't know, this is all speculative now, but if people are not able to deduct their property taxes from the federal taxes, That's the tax, right? That's the tax
Yeah,
law?
that's the right, yeah.
Is that going to create some kind of a pressure on local taxes in terms of public opinion? That might.
I think it's $10,000. If you
It
pay
is.
more than $10,000 in property taxes.
It's not only property taxes plus something else.
State income tax.
State income tax.
State income tax together.
Together.
But I don't think you'll see
Wait,
such a reflection in
wait,
this
wait.
town.
Excuse me. One conversation at a time. Yes.
So,
Go ahead.
excuse me,
Go ahead.
we were
Amar.
just
Well,
side
I don't know.
conversation here.
I was asking the question that if the property plus state income tax, the limit of $10,000, as the property taxes keep going up in this town, inevitably because there are pressures, all kinds of pressures, more and more people will start hitting that $10,000 limit for a period of time. So that might people might kind of wake up and say, like, wait a minute, I'm paying too many taxes.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about our long-term political pressures kind of building up on that.
I am just working so hard to be completely neutral on this because this is not the kind of tax advice I give. Not at all. I don't know.
Well, I don't think, again, I think this is
I was just thinking about, I'm thinking about for the town budget, because town budget relies a great deal on property taxes.
Of course. It's a
over a
more
period.
complicated equation because it's the sum of your. I mean, if I understand what that total tax deduction is, the sum of a number of numbers, and if it's no longer
It's fine.
serves to reduce your federal tax.
Well, I think the pressure, again, that you're going to see.
So then Paul
Paul.
for this
Oh, yes.
So this is really an issue for towns like Wellesley and
Exactly.
Weston, where they have very high property taxes and they're high wealth communities. We're not that.
Right.
We have growing property taxes, but I think a very, very small portion of our residents are going to have high property taxes and high low state taxes. That this is really going to impact that much.
So are you saying though that this 10,000 includes your income tax
No.
plus property tax, or is it just property tax?
It includes,
state-
the 10,000 includes all taxes paid, state, excise, property taxes.
That's what I thought.
Limited to 10,000.
Right.
That's salt.
Yeah.
It may be
State
worth
and local
kind of,
taxes.
and it may be worth kind of, and I think these are probably knowable numbers because of all the people who are paying taxes in this town. Is it 10% of the people who are hitting that, bumping against that, or is it 20%, or is it 50%? Now, communities like Wellesley and stuff, more wealthy communities, maybe there are 50 or 60% of the people hitting that 10,000 limit. Maybe it's a much smaller number for us in Amherst, but over a period of time, that number might actually increase. The proportion might increase. So that'll kind of what I'm thinking is that kind of slowly creates public opinion, public pressure over a period of time on the property taxes. So there are consequences for our budget. That's the way I'm thinking about it.
I think that was actually deliberate in the way that legislation was crafted.
No, I know. But I'm saying that's fine. But what I'm saying is, for us in the finance committee, we're
Right.
thinking about the budget. I mean, we ought to be anticipating this pressure over a period. Maybe not today, not tomorrow. Maybe in 5 years, 6 years, 7, 10 years, this pressure might begin to build up.
Sharon.
Oh, I was just gonna say another factor of that is just another feeling that people have that Amherst is too expensive to live in.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Like
just saying.
not only the property tax, but the fact that you can't get a break using your property tax.
Claire. Oh, Trudy.
He's like,
Claire.
Yes.
Okay, we understand now, and we've heard about how many people came in. So, any other new questions on that, on the collection piece? There's a collection here on ambulance bills, collection rate 1 year 65% in 17. Any reason?
I was wondering if it is possible for the finance committee to get a sense of how many property taxes in town are $10,000 or more.
Okay, we could probably get that information.
And if that number, and is there a way to discern the rate of increase in that number?
maybe the town will allow us to deduct it as a charitable deduction, then we won't be in trouble anymore.
That'd be great.
States are doing that, yeah.
Yeah, California is doing it, so.
But in
Who
a,
knows, right?
in a
Is that
sense, it's a
something that-
progressive tax. The
Yes.
wealthier you are,
That's fine, I'm not arguing
No,
the
no, but I
politics
meant-
of it,
but-
I'm
but
just talking
people
about the
talk-
consequences for the town. I don't really care about the politics of it.
right, I understand that, but I mean, people talk about a progressive tax, this certainly will be one.
Yeah.
Because if you have more, you're paying more in taxes, you obviously are making more. Although some people can shelter theirs, I realize.
Yeah, but there are
But anyway,
elderly
it's
people who live in
interesting.
homes that are high tax, they aren't gonna get their income, and what they're gonna do is they're not gonna deduct, they aren't gonna deduct their expenses, now they're gonna take the standard deduction, which is much higher, and it's not, and that's
That's true.
beneficial to a lot
Right.
of people.
The,
Not that I'm making the report.
the ambulance fund is only 65% collected in 17. That's,
So, this is the collection rate for new bills in transports that occurred in 17 and collections against that number also in 17. If you look at the line below, you'll see that the number rises significantly in the second and third year, and even the fourth year. We're still working those 2013 bills, and the collection rate gets up to 99%. And this is a characteristic of the nature of medical billing. It just takes longer, and it's an iterative process.
insurance.
Insurances are actually our best payers. Our worst payers are when we have to bill the patient themselves. And what's happening in healthcare is more and more people have a deductible, more and more people have higher copays, and when people are responsible to pay their own bills, the collection rate is really quite low. So that's an ongoing challenge for us. We do continue to work those bills in the second and third year, but that is, it's not an easy or quick thing to do. We are also looking at an external billing service to see if, to make sure if we could save money by using external service and or improve that collection rate. So that's an analysis that we're in the middle of right now. Because it is a complicated business, much more complicated than motor vehicle excise tax, one payment done. This is, it's a different kind of animal.
Bertie.
Yeah, I was looking at those rates and I'm saying, you know, those are, from a finance standpoint, those aren't helpful, but they're actually pretty good given all the complications around ambulance billing. And the fact that, you know, it does take, in a significant number of cases, it takes into the second year before you get one or another insurance company to pay. Or, and the thing that we have to watch for in this stuff is if Blue Cross Blue Shield again tries to get legislation that allows them to pay the patient rather than the ambulance company, because that'll just complicate matters even more. They tried that a couple of years ago. So, but the fact that you got, you know, you keep working until you get up to 99% is a real, that's a lot of effort.
When people pay by, through the website, whatever that company is that we use, or we don't use the company? Okay.
We do.
So because I pay online.
Yes.
So there must be a fee for that.
Specific to an ambulance bill, or you moved on to any other kind of bill?
I'm kind of moving in the direction of the ambulance, asking if that's one way to do it. But the bills we now pay online. Some people pay online, some people mail it in, some people come in.
Right.
So what percentage do they take of if you pay online, of whatever your bill is?
If you
Or
pay,
is it a
if you pay
flat rate?
online from a bank account, which is called an ACH, an automatic clearinghouse
Right,
transaction,
I do.
What I do, yeah.
it's a 25-cent fee that the town pays on your behalf. So that's free to the user. That's free to the.
Right, but what does
If
the
you-
town pay for that service? Because you aren't well, you are billing.
25 cents.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's
Correct.
all? That's pretty inexpensive per
Yeah.
transaction.
Yeah.
So And there are a lot of them on there now. There's utility, there's
That number is
property
here.
tax.
I pay them all like that.
Oh, which one is that? I was,
Further down in the list, online from, we call our system Anywhere Self-Service.
oh, okay.
17,343 transactions in fiscal 17.
Right, right.
So it is we still take 23,642 across that counter, which is still hard for me to believe that many people want to come and do this in person, but we still take,
It's decreasing.
but it is going down slowly, yes. And the payments online is gradually increasing. But one has not overtaken the other yet. We still do more business across the counter than online.
What is
That's
payments
interesting.
processed by file?
Payments processed by file is an awkward way of referring to when we are able to automatically upload and process a file. It means it doesn't have to be keyed. It doesn't have to be typed. It's so we have a number of ways, payments that come to us in batch, sort of in a batch process mode that we can automatically upload and we don't have to type them in. So it's a statistic that I watch because it demonstrates we're using a very efficient and accurate payment processing method.
Is there some way you can figure out or know who the people who come in town hall are? Are they young people, older people? You know, what is the biggest group that comes into town hall to pay their bill in the age ranges? You don't know.
I don't have a scientific.
Okay.
I mean, I could
Survey Monkey.
be descriptive. I think, but I might also get in trouble. I think it is mostly. I think it is
Wait, I come into town.
There you go.
It's mostly, yes, it's mostly the delightful people.
Well said.
There you go.
Very good. Well, it's really convenient online. Everything you can get on there to do that.
And we really have. We continue to sort of try to get something new. A year ago, I was able to tell you we got ambulance payments online for those co-pays, for those people who are self-pay or they're within their direct deductible. We got ambulance payments up. This last year, it was the open burning permits. We got up. Every year we try to add something. Rental registration was a big chunk. We got that up online back in 2014. So every year we try to add something because it's something our users and our constituents want, is to be able to pay online.
I'll make sure I'll add my 25 cents to my payments from now on.
Okay, any other questions of Claire or Sonia under Finance Department?
Are we done with the finance department?
Well, I think so, if they're all finished.
I have
Right.
an editorial
Okay.
question or comment. Whoever's writing this up.
Anurag.
Oh, you're gonna write this up for the town report? Right, what up?
Oh, who's
No, I don't mean
who's
the
doing
minutes.
general government? I think it's Bernie does
Oh, you
I
that.
did that last year. I did that last year. I'm not sure. what I'm
Because
doing.
what
Well,
I
you
just,
got it again.
based on what David said,
Uh-huh.
I did the math, and maybe he said it, that increase from the carriage shops to the 1 East Pleasant Street, the development, generates almost $2.5 million more in tax revenue.
Yeah.
And I think having that in the report would be helpful for town meeting to see.
It's going to be explosively political.
Why?
I don't think so.
It
I mean,
is.
that's a fact.
But you are always okay.
Not $2.5 million.
Well, let's.
How did you get to that?
Well, maybe I did it
No,
right. I just took
250.
I thought it was 240 or 50. Yeah, that's what I
Right.
understood.
250,000. Okay, well, I'm wrong, but
Because-
even so, that's a decent number.
Well, because it's up to 830,000 new
What?
development. 830,000.
Right, new growth. I was just asking about the difference between
Okay,
what the
well,
revenue was
that's
different.
another way to do it.
The difference between what the carrot shop was generating and what this development was. You know,
Yeah.
so it's so political about development and everything, and the difference is
Because I
around
did
250, 200,000.
I think it's
That's all exciting.
Wow, that's great.
For a moment, I'm like, whoa, man! I was about to take a picture of his math because I was like, I didn't get
Because I
that.
did it with hundred.
Anurag.
Well, the challenge of numbers is that people interpret the numbers differently, and they will interpret the people who want, they will interpret the numbers, oh wow, great, and someone will interpret the numbers as
But you know,
Wow.
Rob, when we did the last town meeting or wherever it was, last one or the one before, where we presented the cutaway on University Drive for that piece of property, and we said, this is how much this piece of property generated in taxes, like $3,000 some dollars, or it will be maybe a little more than that. And this is what it will generate if we do this. And it was much more. And it seemed to make sense to town meeting. I think we present zoning articles in such a way that that it isn't always clear how much that will generate in taxes for the town, because people would like their taxes to go down.
I think it could be construed as a political statement. That's what I'm saying.
And also, it may bring in more, but it may cost more,
Right.
the town to have this bigger development and
That's
more
my other
people
question,
and
too.
everything else. So you may not be actually bringing in all that extra money.
Depends who lives in them.
Yeah.
I mean, because people pay their own ambulance fees. If the police cars go right by, there's not a problem. If they aren't using town plowing, that kind of stuff, they pay for water, they pay for sewer. They have no children. That pretty much is a plus for the town.
Would the cost be significantly more versus what the carrot shops were, to the town, in terms of
It
the
could
maintenance
be.
and everything else?
It could be.
Well, we
So,
don't have
I don't
a
know.
formal
Yeah.
evaluation of it, so this is all speculation, and that's why it could be interpreted so many different ways. So I would caution the finance committee not to make a political statement like that.
Yeah.
Yes, Janice.
Are children not allowed in One East Pleasant?
Oh, I think they are, but I'm not sure that families would move in there. Aren't they one bedroom? Are they small units?
Talking about Kendrick Place,
One
Right.
East Pleasant.
What is
What is
one?
one? The one that hasn't come online?
Right.
Oh, that one I don't know about.
No, there's
bedroom
there's a variety of
The variety
the
of
variety
In
sizes.
that one,
Yeah.
but in the other one, right? It's
Well,
I thought there was a variety of sizes. I don't know.
Well, it's not the kind of housing that would be attractive to families with, you can fairly well predict the impact a subdivision or a development like that's going to have on a community by looking at how many bedrooms, the kind of style of it. It's not rocket science.
Playground.
The planning commission has done this for quite some time. So even though you can't keep children from living in the building, the chances that you're going to have families with children, plural, living in that building is pretty slim.
Okay.
How does your lawyers?
Okay.
I like that idea. I think
General services.
talk about that.
Thank you, Claire. Are you staying for this?
She's got other stuff.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, you have debt service too.
Debt service,
Okay. Okay, general services.
General services is good. This is the operating budget that pays for our property and
This is yours.
casualty insurance, our, what page?
You need to?
46 and 47.
You sure? Yeah.
Okay. So, we pay for our property and casualty insurance in here, our central supplies, copier paper, computer, pens, ink, toner cartridges, all of that comes out of there. We pay for telephone services here, postage, and our annual audit all comes out of here. And this has decreased $25,000, as I mentioned earlier. We saved $100,000 town-wide on our property and casualty this year, going out to bid for it. And general services realized $25,000. We decreased this operating budget by $25,000 and put that money towards our health insurance
Good.
deficit that we were covering.
Questions under general services? Are we required to have an audit yearly or every 3 years?
Yearly,
Yearly? It's required.
because of the grant money we get.
Okay.
Uh, May I, I'm sorry, I was a little bit distracted. The saving of $25,000 is from where?
From bidding out our property and casualty insurance last year.
Do we bid out every year?
No, but we will now, we have a procurement
You
officer.
can do it out anyway?
We'll be bidding a lot more.
I mean, like property and casualty, you can have company A this year, and then you bid it, and you go to company B next year. I guess there's more. I don't know.
I don't know if we want to bid every year, but every
That's what
couple
I
of
was wondering.
years would not
Yeah, yeah,
hurt
okay.
us.
Isn't that what you just did? And you saved us like $100,000?
Right,
No.
right.
Almost paid for the position.
Nice job.
Yes. Okay, other questions? Sharon?
Do you know off the top of your head how much your audit costs?
It's
in here. It's in-
52,500.
I was-
right by chart there.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, the next item for you?
Okay, general services, debt service.
Claire?
Okay. Debt service is on the green pages. Page 115.
Any particular page number in the green?
115.
Oh,
115.
The first page.
This way.
Back there.
others. Okay, thanks.
So I guess just to point out, borrowing purposes that were new this year is the Karis land acquisition that was approved by town meeting in April of 17. That purchase is complete, and we'll pay our first debt service in 19. And also the Fort River School study project, which is also being called Fort River School feasibility. We'll pay our first debt service on that project, also in FY19. 6 purposes will retire, make their final payments in 18, and have therefore dropped out of the FY19 budget, and those are listed in the bottom of the significant budget changes box. Overall debt service declines by $237,000.
$237,000. Yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
How much was the Karis land acquisition? It was like $500,000 or something. How much? Do you remember how much that was?
That one,
If you don't know.
that one was
So-
225.
Oh, two. That's what.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I think it was the 200.
Okay. Any questions on this? All right, and next one, Claire?
So did you already do retirement?
Before you go to retirement, can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
So obviously, one of the issues here is that debt service is debt, principal, and interest payment, and these are. My understanding is that these are fixed rate borrowings. So if the rates go up, these items will not be affected in terms of payment interest rates.
Correct. When the interest rates go up, it will only affect our future.
Our future ones.
our
So these
future
are all
debt.
fixed rate.
Right.
So these are not going to be affected by it.
Right.
How much do we anticipate issuing in the next couple of years? So because that's going to be hit against whatever the new rates. Everything that I've been reading is people have been talking about the rates kind of going up, and we don't know how far they might go up. We have no idea. But what's our exposure to that? I mean, do we anticipate issuing a lot of debt in the next couple of years?
Not so much in the next couple, but if you go out 3 to 4 and we start to be able to bring on those new building projects, then yes, it's quite significant.
So those, like for example, the school building, we don't know what's going to happen with that. But supposing we were to go into that in that direction,
Well,
that
and
might.
the school building will now probably follow DPW, fire, and
That's right.
library.
So all of those big projects are going to be being hit with a higher tax rate, a higher interest rates.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So when I get the reports from our financial advisor that shows what other cities and towns are issuing based on their credit rating and the number of years in their term, and it's up to, I would say 2 years ago, long-term borrowings were coming in 2.5%, 3% coupon rate, and now they're up 4.5%, 4.75%.
This is for like long term, meaning 10?
10 to 20, 10 to
20
30,
years.
yeah.
Um,
So it's already significant.
so what about like 200 basis points or 300 basis points like that? And so that's a kind of exposure to the town in terms of going forward. I don't know how the finance committee can articulate that to the town meeting.
Well, we can consider that at the time, because we do a finance committee report to town meeting,
Yeah.
so that can be part of
So
that.
as you know, maybe it's not imminent like this year or next year, but in the next foreseeable future, chances are that we're going to be trying to fund large projects which will be at a potentially much higher rate. So that so if we kind of spending money on interest rates, then of course we are kind of taking away from other. So for a finance committee, I think we need to somehow be able to articulate that.
We can in our report to town meeting. Janice?
So it looks like FY19 is the last year for the portable classroom payment, finally.
So we can stop getting that question every year on town meeting.
Well,
You get it one last time.
One more time.
is this it? The spring town meeting? Yes.
I just have a point of order when we're done with debt, so whenever everybody's done with
Okay.
questions on debt.
Any
Did you
debt?
say point of order?
I did say
Point of order, I've always wanted to say that.
She's always wanted to say that, and we're going to let her do it. Okay.
Yes, did you get
Any
any
more
notes?
debt?
Just get emotional
Point of order?
No, I didn't get that.
Any more debt here? Anything on
Pretty sure
debt?
it's a point of order, not a point of.
So I think what Janice is referring to is if you go into the Appendix C, page 191, you can see the whole schedule.
Right. No, it has another year. Oh, it has FY19.
19 will be the last year.
Yeah, well, we still get to ask.
We get that question one more time.
Well, it was unfortunate. So, okay, then, your point of order.
Okay, retirement, other expenditures and other assessments, those are usually done, because they're all separate articles.
Yes,
And when we get the warrant, those are usually done when we have the warrant and there's separate articles that are usually not part of the department.
are there not in here anywhere? Other expenditures, OPEB, none of this is in here? And retirement?
OPEB is in
Okay,
here,
well,
but
that's,
it's not part of here.
right, but it's honorized. Do you want to say anything about OPEB?
When the article comes up.
But you're saying it's not in here.
No, I'm pretty sure of habit, and habit is, these are never during the department, they're
Right.
with the article
Right, they are.
that's submitted at town meeting.
Okay,
So
all
I
right.
was confused.
Your
about
point of
this.
order is taken.
Okay.
Is there something we're supposed to scratch off of here?
I think so. She's saying OPEB and other expenditures are warrant articles
And retirement,
and retirement.
so you scratch those
What
out.
about employee benefits?
We're gonna do human resources and employee benefits.
And then we are done.
And
Look at all the, oh.
Deb Radway tried really hard to be here tonight, but she's not feeling well, so she left me her notes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna, bear with me while I try to go through these
Once they're
notes.
done with me.
And that's on page 28. Human resources, human rights.
Thank you very much, Claire, for
Thank
coming.
you.
Oh, thanks, Clerk.
Good night.
Thank you. Yeah, well,
Did we do debt services?
no, we scratched that. Was her point of order.
We did do that.
We did.
Oh, we did debt service. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did that.
Is that what
It's
We
not
didn't
part
do
of-
other
really talk about that?
expenditures.
We didn't really talk about that.
Well, okay, this is a revised, let me see, I pulled this off the website, this is the revised.
Okay. We're good to
Okay.
go, yes.
All right,
What are we on now? Sorry.
We are on
Page
human
28.
resources
human
and human rights. Deb Radway unfortunately can't be with us this evening.
Human Resources and Human Rights, this is the budget that handles all of our personnel services, recruitment, labor relations, human rights. And this increase, the increase in this operating budget is just for steps and and COLAs. There's no additional positions or there's 1.5 positions in here. There's the Human Rights Director, Deb Radway, and a half a position that's shared with the Town Manager Select Board, clerical position. And then there's the Human Rights Manager for Benefits and Safety, which is Joanne, which is currently paid out of the Health Claims Trust Fund. And Deb's notes here said she would like to highlight the great accomplishments by the new Human Rights Manager over this last year. She initiated and supported Town Hall and Jones Library safety committees with fire and active shooter simulations and drills, provided customer service training for Town Hall staff. She wrote and received a $20,000 state safety grant aimed at reducing workplace injuries through employee training. And she facilitated and supported Human Rights Commission activities, including the Indigenous Peoples Day, Human Rights Day, and a Facebook page, Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast, Black History Month observance, and the largest ever annual Human Rights Heroes picnic.
Good.
For training, she wanted me to mention that we are continuing our training with the UMass and Town of Amherst Joint Supervisory Leadership Development Program. Currently there are 6 participants in the program over 5 departments. This supports an internal succession planning pipeline for future town leaders. And to date, there's been 39 graduates since 2013. I'm one of those graduates. It was a very good course. And her objectives for 2019 are to engage in negotiations with 5 employee unions and settle collective bargaining agreements. And also prepare for the $15 minimum wage coming in the near future.
For town employees.
For town employees.
Questions? Janice?
For the FY19 objectives, the second one, to administer a complete re-enrollment of town and school employees and retirees into health insurance programs in order to update the census of covered members and their eligible dependents. What exactly does that mean?
I can answer that. So what we do is just to have everybody who's eligible to be on our health insurance plan, to require them to re-enroll. So it gives us a check on making sure that people who are on our plan, only people on our plan are the people who should be on our plan. So there might be an extraneous person who was never deleted or something, we might still be paying for, things like that. So, and also to verify that their personal information is up to date. They're not paying for a family plan when they may not need it or anything like that.
So that's something that has not been done.
It gets done periodically. Yeah.
Sounds like a good thing.
Yeah.
Is it something that could be done every year, or is it labor intensive?
It's labor intensive. It's also a burden on the employees that every employee means. We really have to go after every employee to have them re-enroll, and you have to have some, pretty firm with them to make sure everybody does re-enroll. So that if you're not re-enrolled, you're not going to get health insurance. And so you do it. You don't do it every year, but you do it, every few years.
Questions on that? Human resources and human rights. Okay, that takes care of that one. And we are now with, what else we have?
I think that's it for departments, right?
Okay. All right, any news affecting the budget?
Well, there is, we did receive the governor's, local aid numbers yesterday.
Yes.
Sorry, what about employee benefits?
Yeah, that's good.
That's the most important one.
Little ones, little things.
I can see where you want to skip it.
Oh, I thought that was on our,
Sonia, could I get those notes that you read from?
Deb Radway's notes?
Yeah.
Sure.
where he's jumping from.
Or if you want to keep them, you can just send me a scanned copy or something like that. It's up to you.
I have no use for these. There's nothing.
There's a profanity in there.
Huh?
Profanity in there.
Yeah,
Drawing.
I didn't write anything on this.
It's not your profanity.
Sorry about missing that. We've kind of jumped around on our topics
What
tonight,
health
so.
insurance issue?
Okay,
right?
so now we're doing employee benefits.
Okay, this is the area where we pay for all of our most of our employee benefits. This covers our health insurance, Medicare, unemployment insurance, and federal health insurance. It's basically just the line where we budget all of this. The increase in this of 20%, of 709,000, is all largely due to the health insurance increases that we've had in fiscal year 18. We've had to increase, we budgeted for the first 10% to PPOs. There was a second increase of 10% to HMOs and PPOs on top of that, and then we just recently increased 100 for individual plans and 200 for family plans. And it's the town's portion of those premiums is 75 to 80%.
I can't keep up with that. I'm sorry. I'm trying to capture all that in my head. Do you have notes on that, or?
I do.
So I would appreciate a copy of those notes too.
Okay, the numbers that I'm talking about are in here.
I know, I understand that, but so you were just kind of reading off of those, or you have bullet points in a separate form?
The increase are the changes. Yeah, I can send you bullet points.
Okay.
I'll do that. I'm gonna lose my train of thought.
Sorry.
10%.
I think we were talking about
PPOs.
the
PPOs
PPOs,
and- and
$250.
So this
Or-
portion,
Oh, 70
this increase is for the town's appropriation, their portion of
Just 75,
the premiums.
which was 75%.
75 to 80%.
Yes, HMOs we pay 80% of.
80%?
PPOs we pay 75% of. Want to add anything to that, Paul?
No, it's the thing driving our entire budget.
Yeah.
Really?
Are we trying to move people to HMOs from PPOs? Are we still?
The first increase was designed to do that because we increased just the PPO. But it's not that big a difference actually.
Okay.
Are we doing questions now or are you
Sure.
presenting?
You can ask
So
questions.
go ahead.
So I think you, at a meeting we had downstairs, were talking about this line item and relating it to the other budgets.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you look at, like, this is facilities maintenance, page 45. So under the supplemental information, the employee benefits under FY19, that 158,282 is in here.
What page?
Well, in any of these, like this is
45.
page 45.
Right.
So this 158,282 employee benefits, that's part of this number?
Yes.
So if you add up all of these departments, are you supposed to come up with this 4,257,000?
Close. They're based on estimates, even those are, because these sheets are done at a certain point in time, and enrollment changes every month. So people move around, so that might be captured at one moment in time. And then our estimates are captured at a different enrollment period. So you're not gonna tie to the penny on that, if that's what you're trying to do. I know what that's like, I do that every day.
Well, no, I was just trying to get close, and
Conceptually, that's true, yeah.
okay, because okay.
Can you clarify that? You can change your enrollment on a month-to-month basis under health.
Well, open enrollment happens once
Once
a
a
year
year.
where you can change plans, but new hires come
Okay,
on.
yeah, okay.
You can change from an individual to a family if you have a child, or single,
Okay.
get married,
That's pretty
whatever.
standard stuff.
Right.
Okay.
So
Qualifying events.
So is this information more current than what's in here? Because there were a couple, like the fire and EMS and the senior center have larger numbers than they do in here for the under the employee benefits. Does that make sense? Does my question make sense?
I see you're trying to tie into that. I mean,
Well-
we can look at it.
I was just trying to understand the
Depends on
relationship
what-
between these numbers. It looks like all of these numbers come from these sheets, the employee benefits of every the lines. Like, so you can tie in all of these numbers except two, or I can tie in all of these numbers except two.
And they were fire and what?
Fire and the senior center. So the fire was significantly. This is significantly higher. It's like $400,000 higher on this. So I was just trying to understand how what this all means. So
And I can look into that, but I can't.
Okay.
I have to go back into the
Okay.
formulas and see where it's coming
yeah,
from.
and the senior center in here it's like 134,000, and this is 147. So I was just looking at this curiously because Tim brought this up that this somehow was tied in.
And this is just what's under here for supplemental information is just an attempt to give you an idea of what it costs for benefits for that department, and it does include retirees. So if you retired from the fire department, your benefit, your health insurance benefits are going to show up in that line, even if you're not an active employee.
Okay.
So the question would be, does the bottom line here correspond to the bottom line here?
No. This bottom line?
Yeah.
No. Because this, like if you add all of these ones on top, so taking out the whatever these are called, I can't remember. You'll get like 6,800,000 and something or other. And no, that's not true. Never mind. I can't remember. Well, some of these were a little different.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. It's just
trying
a
to
question.
clarify, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, other than those two, which some you can look up for you, the
Yeah, those
rest-
are the only two I couldn't. That were off or that were.
Okay.
I didn't understand.
Do you have those, or she can email you for those two?
I'll look at them.
Okay, she'll look at them.
I'll look at them tomorrow.
So I think I missed one of the meetings earlier where you may have discussed this about the town's overall approach and strategy for containing these expenses as they're rising.
Yes, you did miss that
So
meeting.
if I missed it, then I missed it.
Yes.
But I would, if somebody's willing to give me a quick summary of that.
Those are the bullet points she was gonna send you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I
you think
can-
how they're
okay, that's
being addressed?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I
Paul?
can get to the 2-second version unless you want to keep moving on.
sure.
So we have a lot of things that we're doing. Everything's on the table. We're looking at whether we should stay self-insured or go to a fully insured program. So that's the first thing we're looking at. We're looking at consolidating the risk pool. Right now we offer Blue Cross and Harvard Health, two plans in each. So we're looking at putting those into one. Does that save us money? It does save us like $80,000 or something like that. Is it worth it to change for that amount of money?
By the way, they've done that at UMass.
Yeah. Well, UMass is on the GIC. So,
Yeah.
so they've done lots of different,
Yeah.
and they might change that again because they're meeting next week, I think.
As of this morning, they were backing off that.
They were, yeah. And then we're also looking at plan design, which is a big thing for us in terms of the types of services that we offer. We don't offer a deductible. Almost every other plan in this area offers a deductible. So we have to have those kinds of conversations. We work through our insurance advisory committee, which is 14 people, represents all the collective bargaining units in the schools, the town of Pelham, and town of Amherst. And what we've done is we've taken a subset of that, and Sonia's part of a small group of several, 4 of us on the town side and 4 on the union and retirement side, and we're working. They're the most educated people who've been really participating in this in a long time. We have a really good group of employees who are working on this, and so we're trying to solve this collectively. Basically we've said everything's on the table. We have to make substantial changes next year because we haven't budgeted an increase in next year's health insurance. So we have to take steps now, and willing to go fully insured or do whatever it is. So we're analyzing all of those steps.
So it was a good idea for a long time for us, the town, to be self-insured, but now that we are kind of...
Well, it's like insurance, it goes up and down. So we're in a trough now, and before we benefited from it. And so the question is, do we want to continue that cycle? Because this is a second or third time that some people have been here, they realize we've had a deficit, we've had a surcharge in the past. Or do we want certainty? But then, when you have certainty, you pay someone else is taking the risk. So you're paying someone to take that risk instead of absorbing it ourselves. And so the question is, do we want to retain that premium when we have a good experience, or do we want to pay someone else so we don't, so we can have more level funded?
And the 14-member group and the subgroup is going to figure that out.
The subgroup is really working on it. I'm the trust administrator, so I'm really has to make the decision. But so there are collective bargaining issues involved with this.
Sure.
There's some union contracts that specify that we have to offer Harvard Health and Blue Cross. So there's all kinds of things like that. And then, there's just...
So do you have a sense of how long or when these things begin to, when you have to make a decision about all
Yes, we have
this?
to make a decision by the end of February.
By the end of February. Okay.
Because if we're going to make changes, we have to negotiate with our insurance companies, and we have to educate the employees, and then we have to have an open enrollment and let them choose based on what we're offering. So when we start on July 1, we take money out on June 1. We need about 30 days for open enrollment. So we just sort of backed up and said,
February 1. It's coming up.
February 28th is when we have to.
28th.
Yeah, the end of February. So we have a few weeks to work on it.
Thank you.
Okay, Tim.
Page 32. I'm just trying to understand how many employees do we have overall in the town? I'm trying to understand. I don't know if you have page 32 in front of us, but okay.
When you say town, you mean the schools too?
I mean, yeah, everything. Town, schools,
library,
the whole thing. Because this says we provide in FY17 1,099 life insurance. I'm assuming that means we provide life insurance for 1,099 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that employees?
That's, if you have health insurance, you have to take the life insurance. But not everybody has health insurance and not everybody takes life insurance, so
But
that's.
these are, say a couple, okay? One is employed by the town and the other is on the plan. We count only the people that are on the plan here?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I was trying to understand. The 1,099, that means we have 1,099 to receive some kind of a paycheck from this town.
Oh, yeah, more than that,
yeah.
probably.
Or more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a
Yeah.
lot. That number never
It's a big
sort
number.
of struck
It's a
me.
big town.
What is the?
Yeah, I know,
what is
but
the
it just-
number?
seriously,
This is
never-
for health insurance benefits.
Oh, I understand that.
Because we're self-insured and Region's part of it and elementary schools and Pelham is part of it.
Right.
They're included in those
Did that
numbers.
I know. I never added up all the employees to see how many we have. That's a lot.
Well, this is,
People,
oh,
right?
Right.
because it includes Pelham
Right.
Pelham is
Amherst, Pelham.
We are-
Regional schools.
And the
and
regional,
regional schools.
regional schools is where it's at, yeah.
oh, the regional schools are in
And
there
the
too?
Amherst
Okay.
It says right
schools.
there.
Right.
The number.
Which is why it's a big number. Okay.
Right.
Right, and it's
And
the
this-
Amherst Elementary too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious.
And retirees.
So I understood these, huh?
Retirees carry.
But
$2,000.
retirees, we don't provide life insurance, or do we?
Yeah,
Yeah,
We do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
this goes with them until they reach 70 years old or something. It's a term.
All right, so the retirees obviously would be covered under the Medicare supplemental.
Not life insurance now.
No, in the health insurance.
If they're 65.
So we have 1,400.
They're 65. Oh, that's true. You could be a retiree and still be not on Medicare, so we pick them up in the town plan, right, okay.
Tim.
Okay.
We have 1,472 policies, insurance policies. 1,472.
Okay.
And
Policy.
that changes every month, like I said. People retire.
Because
people
part of the
leave.
thing you're gonna look at is, we have a lot of people, like spouses, or people take our plan rather than take the spouse's plan, right? Because we have a Cadillac plan.
I would not call it a Cadillac.
Maybe
plan.
a generous plan.
Yeah, because Cadillac has a very specific terminology
Yeah,
under the
yeah.
Affordable
It
Care
does,
Act.
yeah.
So
Okay, right, we don't want to use that phrase.
yeah,
We have a generous plan,
we have a
Competitive.
richer plan.
a
Yeah.
richer plan.
We have a richer
Okay.
plan at a lower cost.
Right, okay. I was just curious.
More questions
on
on employee benefits? All right, then if not, we can move on. News affecting the budget, the governor's statement today. Or yes, last night.
We just received a cherry sheet with the governor's local aid estimates. And I just ran the numbers quick. I don't have any handouts or a whole lot of
Okay,
comparisons to give you tonight. I can tell you that our unrestricted government aid, UGA, is at 3.5%.
oh,
Just wanna make sure I'm looking at the
Was
right-
that all because it went up?
yes.
Well, we
Yes.
budgeted 2.5%.
I didn't remember, okay.
3.5%.
This is 3.5, so that helps. And overall, once you take the receipts and subtract the assessments,
Mm-hmm.
we made out by 35,681. So that helped our bottom line for fiscal year 19. 35,681. And I will run all these numbers and I'll send everybody updates on that. I don't think we're planning on changing the projections that we started with in the
Not
budget
just with
book.
the governor's proposal, we
No.
have to see what the
Right.
House is
I mean,
saying.
this is just another set of numbers
Yeah.
until
It's good news, though.
it's
It
good
is good, yeah,
news.
because it
Right.
won't, like you said, it won't get worse than that, if anything. I mean, in other words,
I would
that's
say
the
that.
baseline, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you said it, sorry. No,
She
sorry,
would
I was
say
giving you.
She would
I'm not
say
saying
she's
that.
professional.
Okay. Any questions about the governor's proposal budget?
You should give us more.
Okay.
Well said, everyone.
Okay. All right, then committee and liaison reports. Have we been to the
No, our next meeting is, I gotta look at my email, but I think it's in.
Which one is that again? Sorry.
fire?
Fire and DPW.
DPW.
We have a meeting coming up either next week or the week following, and I'll have an update, but that's our first meeting for the new year, so I don't have any update as of now.
Janice?
The library trustees met yesterday and we voted their budget. They increased, they used a 3.5%, we're still taking a 5% draw. And they increased the amount they hope to get by fundraising if they don't make it. They may have to take a special assessment out of their endowment because they don't want to have layoffs, and that's that.
They voted 2.5%?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, they voted from the budget? Or-
They use a 3.5% guideline
Yeah, okay.
for the town appropriation. A 5% draw from the endowment.
Okay. That's it. Okay, can you report on JCPC?
Yeah, we organized this morning, Connie Kruger is now going to be chairing the committee.
Who is?
Who is?
Connie Kruger. Doug Slaughter was the previous chair, so it sort of keeps it with the select board. We heard from the police department, we heard from the library for their capital requests, and we had a kind of general discussion about some changes we wanted to make and see in terms of how the capital budget ran and what capital requests were. I think Connie agreed that she would come and meet with the finance committee at some point and go over that.
And we'd have Claire come
Clerk and
also.
Claire as well. We could probably send members, I just dawned on me, probably could send members a copy of the minutes that were approved today from last spring that kind of outlines the changes that we talked about at the JCPC.
Let's read them again. I didn't think it said much in there.
No, I thought we'd give people a heads up on some of the stuff that we've talked about in terms of now having and I think we discussed it briefly, a 10-year time frame instead of a 5-year plan. The capital plan now stretches over a 10-year horizon. Some changes in the definition of what capital might be, from $5,000 to $10,000, making the transition because a lot of these small numbers would go back into operating budgets. There's some other topics that we're kicking around. This is all based on recommendations that Peter Heckenblecker made, so we're going back to last spring. Connie will come in and discuss that, and I think, like I said, I think we should maybe forward the minutes from the last JCPC meeting to the committee so they get an idea of what's being talked about.
Okay, I'll look at, we can do that. I'm not sure there's much information in there. The meeting was on the 23rd of March. We didn't have any meetings after that, so it didn't come to us. So we need, I think once it's explained, my understanding is that we will have an opportunity to discuss that. Yes.
I recall when Peter came down and gave us that presentation about going
How
from,
many years ago?
it was a little while ago. I think this body didn't have any action on it because moving the thresholds up in capital would have implications on the operating budgets, because there would have to be an adjustment period for that. If we're going to put some of that capital back, some of that stuff back into operating budgets, we are going to have to adjust operating budgets. So I think it's just a little bit bigger project than just.
Right. It'll evolve over the course of I think, this budget discussion and then have to roll forward a bit. So, but it's underway. I mean, people, I know that Claire did say that she and all that you guys have been having that kind of discussion with department heads and kind of ironing this out, and it's a work in progress.
Well, the other thing someone brought up today, though, is you have things that are capital, in a sense, are going to last over 5 years. Library wanted 2 snow blowers. Or no, they want a snow blower. It's $4,000. Doesn't make the threshold. So where do you put that? Do we order 2 of them and then, or try to get to 10,000? Does the police department put all these various pieces of equipment that are going to last for over 5 years? Do they bundle them and come with something that's over 10,000? So, and then and Bernie's right. Okay, so they don't, they can't put them in the capital budget, but now where do they put them in their operating budget? So Claire, I think it would because she's working with staff, and Connie and probably Paul come in. That could be a discussion at some point as to how you see that working, because all of you work with the departments for sure, and how that would work out. Do you make exceptions? And you're right, I think maybe vaguely when Peter left, but there was nothing definitive. He just thought, but I think the one of the things from the finance committee has been, why do we have studies in there? And Connie, I talked with Connie afterwards, and she said because studies are the beginning of a project, and I guess they're required somehow. At least that's how she sees it. So anyway, I think it will be a good discussion. We need to find a place somewhere, because you're already into the year, so it's not going to affect this year, but where we have ample opportunity to discuss it as a group.
And then we would have to update our financial policy
Right.
to reflect that.
Right. But I think it would take some discussion with us you
Right.
folks, JCPC. So, but it's something we have to do. Okay, any other liaison reports? Oh, I did go to the school committee meeting for the Amherst budget, and they will be coming. Their budgets are online, so if you want all the details, 200 and some pages of them, you can go to the website and get that. Otherwise, Saturday, I'm not sure, but usually they bring that abbreviated budget with them, but they will be also talking about the regional assessment. They think they've found a way to move forward. So that's where we are on the school budgets. Anything else?
The regional assessment meeting Saturday at 9 a.m.
Yes.
At the middle school.
Yes. Yeah, I sent an email to everyone to remind them. So I think it's worth coming. They think they have it, so hopefully everybody will be in agreement. So the next thing is minutes. We have Tim's minutes.
What date? Okay.
Date January 18th. I sent a third iteration after hearing from some people, and the third iteration would be the one that stands. I don't know
Which one is that?
the third iteration. I don't know.
I don't know which one I have now.
I have
The one that has comments about
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
social
Thank you, Paul.
services and senior center.
Oh, about the.
UMass student farmers market.
Okay, I have
That's the
those.
latest one.
January 18th, right?
January 18th. And I made sure.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
There's so much correction budget.
Yeah.
Am I absent on that?
Yes.
You were absent. In fact,
Oh.
Joe,
I was absent
Bernie, and Anurag were absent.
So it's
That's
just,
right, there are 4 of us.
Only 4 of us.
okay. So do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? I'll second. All right, all in favor of those minutes, please raise your hand. Okay, 4, 0, 3.
So I'll send it to you,
Anurag,
just to make sure
we
we have
have, we moved the minutes.
I know, but I have to abstain.
I know, but did you get the vote?
Oh, 4-0.
4, 0,
3.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. There is nothing else, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, the committee adjourned at, what is the official time?
9:44.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Amherst Media.